Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Select Board's call to order February 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Item number 2, executive session per MRSA 1405-6A to consider the town manager's contract. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Okay, folks, we're in executive session and we will be back.
This is a microphone check for YouTube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mic check for Zoom, YouTube, and Town Hall streams. We are back on the air.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Selectmen was called to order at 5 o'clock for an executive session, and there was no action taken. At this time, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So item number 4, approve the January 23rd, 2025 Selectmen
So
meeting.
moved.
Second.
Have a first and second, all in favor? 5, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the select board with any issue that is not on the agenda. Is there anybody out in TV land?
We have 2 people, but no hands raised.
Okay, is there anybody here that would like to have anything? No? Okay. 6, audit presentation for by Cassie
Casey.
Leonard of RKO FY for 2024.
Yes, so our finance director, Nicole's going to give a brief introduction.
Yep. So we are pleased to say that the town of Kennebunkport received a clean audit for the fiscal year '24. Thanks to all the hard work from our department directors and staff, our expenditures came in under budget while our revenues exceeded our projections. And the general fund balance increased to $7.6 million. So tonight we have Casey Leonard from RKO here to present our audit. We would like to thank Casey and his team for all his hard work in preparing this audit, especially given the additional time required due to numerous federal grants this past year.
So yeah, a big thank you to Nicole. The audit this year went very well, very smooth. We finished things in January. Similar to what I've done in the past, I have a little PowerPoint presentation which I'm going to go through. And if you have any questions as I go through any of these graphs, please feel free to jump right in.
And Casey handed out copies, and they just have one number changed in it.
Yeah, I found one boo-boo this morning. So this first graph here shows a summary of the audit results. So if we could go to the next graph. And so this is kind of an overview of things. In terms of the opinion on the financial statements, it was unmodified, which means the financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Or it was a clean opinion, which is exactly what you want to see. In addition to the financial statement audit, in fiscal year 2024, we performed 2 separate compliance audits. So first of all, we performed an audit in accordance with government auditing standards, we usually call a yellow book audit. And here we consider the town's internal controls over the financial reporting process. So we look at all the procedures that are in place that help to ensure that the year-end balances are materially correct. We also perform tests of the town's compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements. And in terms of that yellow book audit, we didn't have any material weaknesses, nor did we have any significant deficiencies. We did have a few recommendations. So we had a recommendation related to segregation of duties. This comment's actually been here for many, many years. I think I've been doing the audit for 3 years, but I'm sure it's been here much longer than that. And that really has to do with the small staff size within your finance office. So Nicole, as your treasurer, really gets her hands into many different parts of the accounting function. In a perfect world, you could take accounting functions, accounting procedures, and give them to different employees, and that would provide for really good segregation of duties. Really not an option here in Kennebunkport. What that means is that there's a greater risk of fraud, and there's a greater risk of errors. And not that either have occurred, but as your external auditor, I need to tell you that there's some risk in having only a few people do essentially all of your accounting, or a very small team of folks. There are a few things that we do recommend. We recommend that management and the board review financial information on a regular basis. If you look over financial information, if you have questions, raise those questions. There have been numerous frauds just in the state of Maine where board members start asking questions about things that they're seeing in financial information, and they discover fraud. So be part of that. I guess the theme is be part of the conversation. You can kind of help to lessen some of the risks that I'm talking about here. We also recommend having good controls when you're talking about liquid assets like cash or other things that can walk out the front door, and generally speaking, the town does, so. Then we had a recommendation about maintenance of capital asset records. So capital assets are, what I'm talking about when I say capital assets, I'm talking about things that are classified as buildings, equipment, vehicles, infrastructure. And so when we were looking at the capital asset records this year, during our testing, we found material additions that were missed or unrecorded retainage there was unrecorded retainage in the current year. So we're recommending that the town retain and update its capital asset records on a regular basis during the year and especially at year end. So this includes the periodic review of current year additions, disposals, construction progress, retainage, and depreciation calculations. And then also again in 2024, because the town expended more than $750,000 worth of federal grant proceeds, we performed an audit in accordance with the uniform guidance. So this is a federal compliance audit. Usually we kind of do a rotation of different programs that we look at. The town actually only expended money on 2 grants, but they were very substantial, so we actually audited both of them. We have plenty of clients where, they have 40 or 50 different grants and we'll only audit 2 or 3 of them. It's a little different for you guys because you only have 2 very large grants. So in 2024, we audited the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Cluster. We've actually audited that one for, I think this is the 3rd year that we've looked at that one. And then we've also tested the ARPA program, the Main Infrastructure Adaptation Fund. We did have a finding related to that ARPA fund. It was for lack of documented evidence verifying contractors' eligibility to work on federally funded projects. So there are requirements that if you're expending federal grants and you're contracting with contractors, you need to determine whether or not they are suspended or debarred. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can have language in a contract, you can get a certification from that contractor, or you can look at, there's a website, sam.gov. Unfortunately, the town really didn't do any of those. I believe there was a process where folks did look at that sam.gov, but it wasn't documented. The feds have really been pushing that if you go that latter route where you're looking online to make sure that these entities are not suspended or debarred, that you document it. You actually need to print that page off. For whatever reason, they've been kind of picky about it in the last few years. So we did have a finding in that area.
That was on the Causeway project.
Yeah. Then going to graph 3, we start to dive into some of the financial results for the year. We're primarily going to be looking at the town's general fund, which is where the majority of the operations for the town is recognized. This first graph shows fund balance. So if you take total assets less total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources, you're left with the equity position or the fund balance for the town. And we take your fund balance and we kind of carve it up into different categories. And I'm just briefly going to describe what's included in each one of these. So first of all, you have non-spendable fund balance. That represents resources which cannot be spent. So these are amounts that can't be easily converted to cash, and specifically what we're talking about here is inventory. Then there is assigned and committed fund balance. That represents resources that can have constraints put on them by the town. So these are amounts that are set aside by the board. Specifically what was included in here in 2024 was $200,000 set aside to balance the 2025 budget, so the following year budget. And there was also $831,000 set aside for carry forwards. And then unassigned fund balance is what remains after amounts are recognized in the other categories. It's essentially what's left over. Total fund balance in 2024 increased by about $640,000 to equal $7,661,000. We're going to see some of the reasons why that happened on the next few graphs here once we start talking about revenues and expenditures. So graph 4 shows general fund revenues, and this is a budget to actual comparison. In total, your revenues were about $1,409,000 over budget, so you received more than what you were expecting. Some of the larger variances are mentioned here. Tax revenues are over budget by about $79,000 due to the conservative budgeting of the excise taxes. That's usually the case for the town. It's usually the case for most of my municipal clients. They usually try and be pretty conservative. You don't know when your citizens are gonna start, changing their buying habits and not buying those new vehicles. Licenses and permits were over budget by about $93,000 due to greater than expected building permit proceeds. Charges for services were over budget by about $86,000, primarily due to greater than expected revenue from parking violations and Goose Rock's beach stickers. Interest earned was over budget by about $543,000 due to higher than expected rates of return after the town worked with their banks to increase interest rates in the current year. And other revenues were over budget by about $615,000 due to the receipt of unbudgeted donations, including over $500,000 in town hall related donations in that year. It was very, very significant. I'm not sure I've ever seen that many donations from municipality in 1 year.
Well,
That was one big one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize
That
that.
was
Yeah.
a single check.
Oh, wow, amazing.
We have a lot of nice people here.
Yeah, I love it.
we're still taking donations.
I'll get my checkbook. Graph 5 shows general fund expenditures. So again, another budget to actual comparison. In total, expenditures are about $2,021,000 under budget. When you factor in the unbudgeted transfers, the variance was about $118,000. Again, some of the larger variances are mentioned here. General government expenditures are under budget by about $1,088,000. And that was primarily due to lower than expected planning and development costs and almost $1 million in unneeded contingency and tax abatements. Public safety expenditures are under budget by $176,000 due to vacancy in the police department and communications. That's a common theme for just about every one of my clients. Every one of my clients is essentially shorthanded in public safety. And it's been like that for probably 2 or 3 years now. We've seen a lot of vacancies. Public works expenditures are under budget by about $155,000 due to vacancies and lower than expected winter maintenance costs. And capital improvement and reserves were under budget by about $569,000 as amounts were not expended on their expected use. These amounts have been carried forward. You can actually, there's a footnote in the notes to the financial statements that describes all of the carry forwards. Give you a sense of what's going on there if you want to look at that at a later point. Graph 6 shows unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So the town has a fund balance policy, and that is to target 2 months' worth of expenditures, which equals 18%. The policy talks about if you fall short of that 18%, then there should be a plan of getting to 18%. I think it's over 5 years. And then if you exceed 18%, you're in a position where you can do transfers into capital reserves. It's pretty common with a lot of my clients. They have similar policies. They're all a little bit different, but pretty common with what we usually see. As of June 30th, 2024, the town's percentage was 24.47%. So obviously you're exceeding the 18%. Should be in a position where you can do transfers to capital reserves. I'm not sure if you folks have done that yet, but if you haven't, you can.
Tonight.
Oh, tonight, okay.
We always wait
Perfect.
for the audit.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. There any questions on that graph? Usually that raises a few questions. Fund balance is one of those things that folks like to talk about. Generally speaking, you guys have a very good fund balance. Kind of the gold standard for the industry, or not the gold standard, but the metric that we often look at is unassigned fund balance as a percentage of budget. So as opposed to comparing to actual expenditures, we compare to budget. We generally recommend 1 to 2 months worth of expenditures, which would be 6.7 to 16 and change. You guys are obviously over that. I mean, here we're comparing to your actual expenditures. If we were to compare to budget, you'd definitely be over 20%. So, your fund balance it's in a very good place. And then the final 2 graphs show general fund expenditures in a pie chart format. So just another, kind of a different way of looking at your expenditures. When looking at this, you can see your three large categories were education, or the transfer to RSU 21, that was at about 44%. Transfers out was at about 15%. I think that was a little bit unique in this year. You know, you had a lot of transfers out of the general fund into your capital projects, so it was a little bit different. And then third largest was public safety at about 12%. And the final graph shows the same presentation, but for 2023, I think things were a little bit more normal. Your transfers were only at about 6%. But the three largest, education, again, 49%, very similar to what it was in 2024. Public safety was at about 13%, and general government was at just about 10%, just shy of 10%. Generally speaking, for municipalities, whether or not you have your own school department or if you're transferring into an RSU or an SAD, it can be anywhere between 40 and 60%, I would say. That's kind of, I mean, we see everything in between that range. You guys are obviously right in the middle. That was everything I pretty much had. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the graphs that you guys didn't have a chance to ask.
No, I think it looks
Yeah,
good. No, it looks good. Thank you.
absolutely.
Great.
You
Appreciate the
guys are
work.
all set? Any questions?
Appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did a great
Thank you.
job, and thank you very much.
Certainly, yeah. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
7,
Nice
authorized,
job.
beg your pardon?
Good job. We're
Oh.
saying Becky, nice job.
Oh, okay. Authorize annual transfer to the capital reserves fund in
No.
accordance with the
No.
fund
Nicole.
balance policy.
Nicole.
Nicole.
Looking for a motion.
Nicole would like to say a few
Oh,
words.
would you?
We're listening.
So per the fund balance policy, we are recommending that the Board of Selectmen authorize the transfer of $1,731,512 to the general capital improvements account. And with that transfer and then the current year's use of $600,000, that will leave us a balance of $2,535,352.
Great, that's great. So I'm looking for a motion.
I will make a motion to transfer the $1,731,512 to the capital reserve fund, bringing our balance to $2,535,352.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Do you have mine?
Doing my best.
8,
Yeah.
cemetery committee presentation by Ruth Fernandez. Come on up.
Hi. Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys, too. So I'm going to introduce the committee to you.
Good.
Rita Schlegel, Greg Parkellis, Ann Sanders, Judd Starr, and Linda Bryan didn't come because of the weather,
Okay.
understandably. Besides our committee, we have other people that help us out with different cemeteries. People, one of the handouts I gave you is this letter that we sent out to the owners, some people who have cemeteries on their properties. We did that this year because we found that there was some people who, you know, we've always tried to tell people when we were out cleaning a cemetery or something like that, what the rules were,
Can you talk into the microphone, please?
what the rules were.
People from home.
And basically, there's not a whole lot of rules about cemeteries. One is that, these are state rules. You have to care for the veteran cemeteries. And the other one is you can't disturb the ground within 25 feet of a cemetery. And the reason for that is because back in the day, if your cemetery got full, people would just bury grandma or the in-laws outside or the workers or whatever. So those are the only two rules we have. And we found that, you know, we've told this to people, but then they've sold the house to somebody else, and those people don't know the rules. So this year, we sent this out to all the people who have cemeteries on their property, and it was great, because we did get some feedback, like, I don't have a cemetery on that property, stuff like that. But also, like, oh, yes, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And it's very much appreciated, all those people that work on the cemeteries. Plus, there's a handful of other people who kind of have adopted certain cemeteries that they care for. And we have one fellow, I'm not mentioning names because I know I'll forget somebody, who loves getting out in the cemeteries and doing this outdoor work, and he's got all the tools and everything, so he does a number of the cemeteries. And then we go out as necessary and to work on different cemeteries. So Greg is going to give us give you guys an overview of cemeteries in town.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Cemetery Committee.
Could you say your name so the people on the...
Greg
TV
Pargellis. The Cemetery Committee takes care of the private cemeteries and ancient burial grounds in town. And the ancient burial grounds are older than 1880. We have about 76 of them in town. These are the little ones you see on the side of the road. The biggest one's just down the road here, Village Cemetery, right here on North Street. It started unofficially back in the 70s. Clary Nickerson, Jim Steele, and Nat Johnson, they would find these old graves, word of mouth, and they wrote down all the inscriptions on all the stones. My father joined back in '79 and started putting flags out, because a lot of the veterans weren't getting flags. Now, the Legion does a lot of them, but there's still some that they don't know where they are, so we do the flags for those. So they did all the documenting, and we have started doing maintenance. Some stones are disintegrating, and we replace them. Clary Nickerson always said it's about the trees. So we try to take care of them. If one looks like it's going to come down, we do some work on it. Unfortunately, like with everything, prices are going up all the time. The public cemeteries, like Arundel Cemetery, are different. They're still doing burials, so that's the difference. I think the inscriptions on the stones and placements of the cemeteries tells us a lot about the town history. You can follow the generations and learn a lot from the inscriptions. So we try to keep all that going.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
There's a cemetery off of Roberts Lane, which is, are you familiar with that?
yeah. Seth Grant, I think.
Is that the
Yeah.
name of it? That goes way back, it seems
Yeah.
like. And have you guys been?
Oh,
taking-
Springer Hill Cemetery, yeah.
Right there. Is
Yeah.
that what the name of it is?
Yeah,
Yeah, do you guys take care of that?
yeah. We, it's kind of hard to access it. It's got stone wall all the way around it. We go in, that was a work party a couple years ago. We went in with clippers and cut stuff. Didn't we have some tree work done? Oh, okay, yeah.
It needs what?
Another fellow was doing some work in there.
Because I noticed that, I don't live very far from there, and I noticed that it's overgrown with fairly good-sized trees.
Yeah.
How many people are buried there, do you know? There seems to be quite a few.
There's a lot,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just wanted to ask that question, to see
Okay.
if you were taking care of it, because
Yeah,
it's,
we'll take another look at it.
Yeah, it
It's
is-
got a couple, I think there's a couple Revolutionary War veterans
yeah,
in there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Hutchinses and.
Yeah,
Yeah. whole family names.
Do you make your data available to Ancestry or other databases? Are there-
So, one winter, I typed out every inscription on every stone, and I believe the Historical Society has it.
Oh, okay.
that would-
It's in Excel. I was nervous people would get in there and change data, but, yeah.
Are there coordinates with it as well?
The town, a few years ago, did GPS coordinates on
coordinates.
all of them, yeah,
Excellent,
yeah.
excellent.
That was one of the interns we had for the summer, was working
Great.
Yeah.
with the cemetery committee. I think one of the things, you find with an intern is, they do the best they can.
Right.
With the equipment that they have. So we've talked about, the recent example where we came to you for the consent agreement because there was digging near a cemetery.
Right.
And so some of that funding, Galen was looking at trying to get those ones that aren't showing up on GIS, so we're having more clarity.
Perfect.
But it's a lot of fun. We had a fairly large cemetery off Gravelly Brook Road, and there were only 3 stones in there, and I thought, there's gotta be more to this. And I probed around and I found another stone.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, we're still finding them, and
Wow. So you have a pamphlet you just passed out to us, and it says I think it says all of Hall Cemetery. So what is this something new that you found, or is this something,
It's circled.
it's circled? I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious about that.
So Greg had mentioned Clary Nickerson, who was kind of spearheaded the whole cemetery committee in the beginning. And she came up with that map, and the next page is a list of all the cemeteries. And then you have to go back to the map and see what F is or what 59 is.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay, yeah.
that's basically what we were working with.
Oh, okay.
And
This is great.
and then she actually has a notebook that describes the cemetery, describes where it's located, and then who owns it. And then she put down the inscriptions on all the headstones. And so the Historical Society has that notebook of hers, and we all have copies of that. But this map leaves a lot to be desired. So we've, it's kind of like, what road was that on? And, so it helped a lot when we tried to do this GPS thing with the intern, finding these places. Basically, for me, if I want to figure something, I go to Becky, because she has on her map where different cemeteries are and where people live and stuff, because in Clary's notebook, it would be like, well, you go down East Street to the red house by the big tree, and so we have updated that in our notes, the descriptions of where everything is.
So, can
my dream was always to have a layer of the cemeteries on the town map. And anytime someone was building something, it might throw a red flag,
Yeah.
just to show that there's a cemetery
I'd
there.
also like to have a link then to the names that are in the cemetery, to have your epitaphs, and that would be a very easy thing to do.
Yeah,
So if people were looking for possible relatives
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah, the Historical Society has that.
That's a great intern
Yeah.
job to get that.
Well, this is
tied.
very important because, these are the people in these cemeteries that made Kennebunkport as great as it is. And we really appreciate what you guys have been doing. And
Well, thank you.
very much.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question.
I
If
do
we,
go ahead, and then I do.
okay. So if a stone head falls over, we,
There's a lot of stones that are down. It costs money to set them up properly. We do the most important ones. If they're completely disintegrated, we'll do a new stone. But that's,
you don't contact the family?
no.
Some of them don't have families anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're talking, I think,
But it's funny, by Beechwood Dump, there's a child buried, and there's no stone, but the family's been there so long, family history, it's right here in this round garden. It's just always been there. So, you know, these families are still in the same houses. It's amazing.
How do you get your funding when you replace a stone? How is that paid?
From the town budget.
Yeah,
Great, so there's
So one thing I will note on the cemetery committee is that the budget is small. If you go back and look at your cemetery budget, the largest portion goes to the Arundel Cemetery, which is still an alive cemetery, and it's our contribution to that. The amount of money that, and then the other large portion is mowing. So we have salaries in there, and Jim Burrows for many years did that mowing and was very meticulous about it. Since Jim retired from that job, you know, we do the best to fill in with seasonal help, which is challenging. And then, so they really have two lines. They have cutting and pruning and maintenance, and they're very small lines. And the amount of work that could be done far, far exceeds the funding they have. So I think that the cemetery committee does a great job of partnering with residents. They, last year, they worked with the golf course needed attention in a certain area. We gave them access through our cemetery, and they took down a tree that we needed taken down. So we look for opportunities, but they are often challenged with you know, is it a veteran, and that tends to take priority? Is it a very visible cemetery? Because there are many headstones and many trees and much more maintenance in these cemeteries that could be done, but the numbers far outweigh the funds.
so that's what I was asking for, because we have one on our property, and a stone just tipped over one of the last couple storms. So we went over there, and it's like, there's nothing underneath it, it's just a stone.
that's the problem. They're set in dirt.
Yeah.
We try to set them in mortar or at least crushed stone to hold them up. Get in contact with us and we'll,
Okay. And then what do we try to do too? Because like you know, we've got the granite pillars with the bars, but those are all falling down too. So those we just sort of let go to nature, and we just try to concentrate on the stones.
some people have luck with two-part epoxy, gluing
Okay.
posts together.
Okay.
If water gets in, it'll crack
Yeah,
again.
I think that's what's happened
Yeah.
over the years. So,
I think the fix for
Yeah.
that is new granite posts, but that's
yeah,
expensive.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. But the intent from the committee is you put the preference on just trying to maintain the stones, the site itself.
Yeah,
as best as
veterans is first, visible cemeteries is second, and some out in the woods just have to wait.
Yeah.
And ones that people show interest in,
Yeah.
you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was out there one day in my garden, and all of a sudden, this red truck shows up, and Mr. Burrows comes out, and all of a sudden, it was pouring rain, and he had the leaf blower out there, and, yeah.
Yeah,
He was,
that's great.
So can I just say, so this map that you gave us with the dots and the numbers, and then the second page, are those, do they correspond, are they like the people who are, the names on the tombstones, or are these?
Usually, a cemetery's named after the oldest burial. So it might be Jake Wilds
Yeah.
or William Wilds.
So it's not the current owner's property?
No,
It's,
yeah.
it's who's buried there?
Yeah.
So- I think this is interesting.
Yeah. It's great to go out and walk around in them, check
Well,
them
they're
out.
They're peaceful.
Yeah.
They are.
Any more questions?
No, I
Let
just
us
wanna
know, I
thank-
mean, if there's something that the town can do for you, you should let us know.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we thank you for all the work,
Thank you for everything you all
everybody.
do.
Yeah, you guys,
Sure.
come right up.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, when the budget comes up, feel free to
Can
check us out.
can you speak in the mic?
Ask. You have to
Thank you.
ask
Yes.
for an amount.
Yes, well, whatever we ask for, please agree to that. Because, like Lori said, and like your headstone that just fell over, another one fell over in this North Street Cemetery just because the ground was so wet.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so which one do you take care of? And
Because they have about enough funding to do one, maybe two headstones a year. And maybe take care of one tree or branch, and that's about it.
Okay.
Everything else is the labor that they put in.
yeah. We did have someone look at one of the dead trees in the cemetery you're talking about, which is interesting because I've never heard of anybody who knew that cemetery was there. And it's a big cemetery.
It is a big
It
cemetery.
is, yeah.
It is.
And that tree person didn't want to tackle it because of, I don't know what it was. It was
Too close to the
just too
cemetery.
many things, or they couldn't get in with a big enough piece of, whatever, but they couldn't do it. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you is, so this cemetery right down here has a number of names. It's the North Street Cemetery, Village Cemetery, Bass Cove, the Tombs.
Oh, I like
Another
that.
one too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, going back a ways, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the wreck of the Isidore. Kennebunkport was this shipbuilding town, and the Isidore was built here. The crew, there was like 14 or 15 people on the crew, they all lived around here, and they sailed off one day, and there was a big storm, and down in Cape Nettic, the ship ran aground, and everybody was lost. So it was like just devastating for the whole town. And so we have some of these cemeteries of the people that were on this wreck of the Isidore, or that were on the Isidore. In the North Street Cemetery, so this fellow who knows all about headstones wrote this book about billboard cemeteries. And they're ones that, they're just long and flat, not always necessarily big. You can have a smaller one, but there's like 2 posts on each end and there's air underneath, So he wrote this book. There are 3 billboard cemeteries in this North Street cemetery, 3 headstones in the North Street Cemetery. There's only 38 of these billboard headstones in Maine. So,
Wow.
just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Cool. That's very cool.
Cool, did not
Well,
know.
Ruth, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Okay.
See?
9, update regarding the daily shellfish licenses. Here comes Tracy.
Good evening, Tracy O'Rourke, Town Clerk. So after the last meeting we discussed the shellfish daily licenses and possibility of offering those. So I reached out to the state and I did get some feedback. And based on the state regulations, we would not be able to limit daily licenses just to taxpayers and residents, which I think was important at the last meeting. So we would have to open it to anybody who wanted one. We also would not have the authority to cease mid-season if we realized that this resource was being depleted. So we would have to commit for a full year, and we wouldn't be able to stop mid-season. And then the procedure for issuing them that I thought was a great idea between Everett and I would not be able to follow that either because it's not in our ordinance. And we would have to follow what our ordinance says, and our ordinance is very vague. So there's really no direction there. So those were my findings, but I'm gonna let Everett Leach, the shellfish warden, give you his interpretation, and you can make a better informed decision.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your
Hi,
time.
Everett.
My name is Everett Leach, Chairman of the Shellfish Committee. As far as the daily licenses go, as they said, your options are to listen to the state, not listen to the state, but go with them and have them all available to resident and/or non-residents, because it's not in our ordinance to segregate it yet.
That's
We-
the only thing, it's not a state rule, that's just an ordinance?
Town ordinance rule.
Okay, okay.
Yep, no,
We-
that's,
we can
that
fix
we,
that.
that I can interpret from the last correspondence back from the state.
Yep.
Okay, so that's one that can be done. In fact, the Shellfish Committees is taking on the fact that the state wants us to change or update our town ordinances. There's a little bit of vague areas in them, and we're doing that now. We had a meeting last Tuesday, and we're about a quarter of the way through everything that so eventually we will get you a draft of what we want changed, what we want changed, whether it's just a word here or there, or what have you.
And
Yep.
obviously Tracy knows the deadlines, I mean, we're working that in the.
Yep, so we can do it for a November vote, so we'd have to get it for
Yep,
public meeting and all of that, so that we're working on.
okay.
So, as far as the daily license, whether you want a residents only, if you can wait this year and not sell daily licenses, we can try and work that in the town ordinance. Okay? As far as the limiting of the licenses, I think that needs further discussion with the state, because I know they do limit them in other towns. They got daily licenses, and they say we can only sell 10 that day, that's it. But that is asked by the state when we ask for their seasonal license allocations, that we send them up, then they approve it. So I think that can be worked around or worked on, is one of them. And I'm not sure about she says I say she, our area biologist, her name is Ari Leach, no relation, but that's who we work with. She's the one in most of our correspondence back and forth. Where was I going? Whether we can stop
Giving them out.
the licenses on time, and whenever we feel,
Right. Yeah.
if they get overused.
Right.
I understand that point. You can't stop a certain section. In other words, you can't seize one category and keep other categories open. Okay, we wouldn't be ceasing, we don't want to close down the seasonal licensing, just the daily. So the committee kind of felt that out and said, well, that's why we only wanted to do 5 daily licenses on a weekend. So I think with that discussion with them, and whether we can close it down or not, I think we ask for license allocations every year. Right now, it's in our town ordinance that we can have daily licenses. It just hasn't been tweaked, or we haven't asked for them in the last 10 years that I've been here. So we can. But the point is, we keep it open for the year. That's why we set it for 5 licenses, and figuring it won't get abused. Therefore, next year, if we think it was getting overused or over-harvested, we won't ask for so many or any at all on our yearly request for license allocations. So there's a way around that too, that we can tweak. And I think we'll see a rush at the start maybe, in a few, but the weather dictates what's going on. Okay, seasons, so we'll see what happens.
So you want to keep it like it is? You don't want to change anything right now?
That's your call, whether you want to just let it be and let us change the town ordinances and
think
try and do
that's-
that, or,
I think that's a good idea.
and keep it so it's residents only, and
Yeah.
we'll put it in the town ordinance that we're working on. Okay,
That's-
I would,
yeah.
yeah.
then we will move forward in that.
What about
And-
everybody else?
I think that's the way to
that's
go.
the
And
way
then,
to go.
you think that can go on the November ballot
That's what we're shooting for on the whole town ordinance
regarding?
change.
What was the question?
Could you
Yes.
make the November?
Yeah.
Can't be in June.
I
No, it won't be in June, we won't be ready.
think my only thing is on the daily license. I understand why we're looking at it, and I understand that, I go back to the conversation we had before. I'm just still a little worried about use of them.
It's not gonna be, it could be
I know, but I,
So remember.
no,
we
but
got-
I see a lot, yeah. No, but I see, yeah,
We're concerned on both sides,
yeah.
because we just don't know, and
I-
it's an
Yeah,
unknown.
I see people clamming
Yeah,
right from my deck.
Yeah.
And I see a lot, and I would question if, licenses on some of them.
they,
You should be the
You know,
deputy
'cause
clam
I-
warden.
Yeah, well, maybe we should cross paths
But I
and you
think
give
when
me
we
a.
open up, then we're actually sort of encouraging a little bit more, and I think that's my concern. That's my concern.
What is your concern again?
Now you could then go and check people's licenses.
What is your concern?
Well, no, we do have licenses. I mean, they can check now. My concern is once we get people used to the impact or the ability to get daily licenses, I think that takes us to a different level, and people know now, the majority know now, that they need a license for the season. And once we go to dailies, it seems like we take that next step, and it broadens the, okay, I had a daily license, it was a couple weeks ago, I'm just gonna go out again.
yeah, but I would argue that someone is up here and they want to get the clams, and they're not going to get a seasonal license, they're going to take a risk of getting caught. But a person who really cares about the system, if they know they can get a daily license, then they'll do the right thing. So, I don't know.
And that's part of the argument that we wanted also daily licenses to relieve the stress at the town office to get the seasonal license, and the people only use it twice.
Exactly.
We'd rather have you come get a seasonal license, you might use it more than twice.
I doubt it.
Okay, then come get the daily, okay? And that's what we want to encourage. And that way there, that opens up the avenue of people coming up, hey, the grandkids are coming up.
Right.
4th of July.
Yeah.
Let's get a daily license, we'll bring the grandkids out, we get it dug. That's why we set the limit at 5 a weekend, so that we believe what we've seen out there, that's not gonna hurt the resource.
So all you gotta do is bring back, what you wanna change in the ordinance and everything, so we can all take a look at it, so we'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, definitely, I mean, we've got a lot of verbiage
Yeah.
changing.
And I have another question.
Yep.
Green crabs,
Uh-huh.
how are the green crabs population?
I don't know, I haven't trapped them here in Kennebunkport, but I've had some clam diggers say they've seen them out towards Stage Island. They're very, quite an amount, or
They love
trot,
clams, by the way,
That's
and
right.
they kill the small,
Yeah.
right.
small clams.
I was just curious
Yeah,
if
it's
it's
in that
getting
inlet
worse or.
between Redden and Stage. We
Yep.
see a lot of them in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
They come out of the
We gotta
riprap.
get a good recipe for soup. You know,
They have it,
Green crab
they have it.
soup,
I can
yeah.
get you the green crabs if you wanna, because I used to catch green crabs and sell it by the 5-gallon bucket to a few restaurants. And out of a 5-gallon bucket, they will boil that stock, crab and all, for 4 hours with their seasoning. Carrots, oregano, whatever spices, sort of like you would with a chicken breast. They boil it down.
We haven't
strain
had
it,
dinner yet.
And here we go. And, but there are recipe books out there that I have that different restaurants have done it.
You bet. Wish we could get a business out of it.
Any more
We all
questions?
do, we all
Are
do.
you gonna serve green crabs at the Chowder House?
No, just for you, sure, come on down.
Good deal.
Come on down.
So, all right, we will move forward, we're trying to change the ordinance and accommodate it for residents only.
Great.
Excellent,
Thank you.
Thanks. You do a good job.
We're trying, thank you very much.
Any more questions? No?
All right, well, let me got one more thing, may I, if I may?
Oh, absolutely.
I was here last year at this time asking for an extension of the clamming
Yep.
season
Right.
for 6 more weeks to get us to, which would make it year-round. Well, our year is up, again, the resource seems to be holding it fine. Who was digging out there in January, February, March, and April is a pretty hardy bunch.
They deserve the clap.
And they are doing it for food.
Yeah.
They're not doing it recreational to bring the grandkids or bring kids.
Yeah.
So I'm here to ask again if we can do that again, either for a longer period of time, 3-year, or open it full season on our schedule anyways, and that's up to you to decide.
What's up to the board?
Why go back? If it's working, we've tried it for a year, it seems to be working, I would say let's put it to be, that's what's so, until we find that we need to take it back for some reason.
And you would let us know.
That's our,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're there for.
That's your
Mary
management.
Beth?
So if we say if that's what's so, And then if we get to the day licenses eventually, then you'll come and claw that back if we need to, like, say, we need to tap down the day licenses. We'll still have this cadence of being able to talk.
What would happen on the day licenses is, I'm recommending, every year in January, we ask for a license allocation
Okay.
to the state.
Okay,
It would either be on there or it wouldn't be on there.
Okay,
Or we would
got it.
drop it down from 5 to 3,
got it. Okay.
David,
depending on
you
the
have
resource.
anything?
No, if you
So-
think it's working, I
You
don't have a
want a
problem
motion
with
for
it.
that?
Do we need
You would definitely need a
We
motion.
definitely need a motion for that.
For what?
Do we need to
To
do a
extend it for
public
you.
process for that, or no?
I don't know.
I think we just voted last year.
We did.
Make a motion to extend the
The claiming season year round?
clamming season till year-round, until there's a
Our
problem.
recommendation that there's
And
any resources are
Until you
limited.
come back, yep.
There's a reason to not.
Well,
Yep.
can you say that again, please?
The motion,
The
yes.
motion.
I make a motion that we extend the clamming season for a year, to a
year.
year. And if there's a problem with the numbers, overfishing, then we will take action at that time.
So I have a first,
Second.
have a first and a second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank
There
you
you
so
go.
very much.
Good.
And that is our position on the committee, is to let you know yearly how things are going and what it's looking.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
as you
if
asked,
you ever have a problem, just come back in.
we'll do, definitely.
Just bring a couple pecks with
Call
you
it.
when you
Call
come.
There we go.
Call Alan.
Yeah.
Not the green
All
card.
right,
Not the green kind.
all right, thank you so
Thank you.
very much, appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Item number 10, consider a residency policy for registrations, licenses, and permits. Hi, Tracy again.
Hi, Tracy O'Rourke, Town Clerk again.
And you should have a hard copy of
Yes.
some suggestions that John made, and so Tracy put them in this hard copy, red line, so you can look at them.
So what I'm really looking for is some guidance from the board as far as how we proceed with establishing residency. It's been the unwritten policy in the office since April Dufault's time, before me, that if we have someone new to town who is a renter, they do not own property, that they have to show a rental agreement or lease agreement to us to prove that they do in fact live in town. Because with a taxpayer, you can just look at the records and see that, but with a renter, you don't know. So if they live with a parent or something like that, then we just need a letter from their parent saying, this adult child is living with me currently, and that's fine. So, as with many things since COVID, people are pushing back on a lot of things as far as rules, and they want to be the exception and things like that. So we have never had a written policy, it just was the way we did things. So the past summer and even in the last couple weeks, we've had some people who have really pushed back. They don't want to provide a lease agreement, they don't want to go home and get it, or they don't have a written policy with their landlord. So again, we tell them we just need a note saying you do in fact live here long-term. And we had someone a couple weeks ago who was getting very irritated and irate with us, and we didn't have anything to show him. He said, well, show me in writing where that is, and I don't have anything in writing. So I'm here to say that if you would like us to continue to protect the residency requirement, that we need something in writing, which would be this document suggested. Or if the board doesn't feel like it's a necessary thing, that we don't take that, then I just need to know that as well, and we'll stop putting ourselves through the hassle. So just a few reasons why proof of residency with a vehicle registration is so important is that if you have a car registration in a certain town, it entitles you to vote in that town. It allows you to register your kids for school. It allows you to get a driver's license at BMV with that town address. And specifically for our town, it means you get the reduced rate beach sticker, which is a pretty big deal, which is why someone might say they live here and they don't because they want to pay $10 and not $250. And we have seen that too, with people trying to get by with that. Sure. So I'm really just here to see what the board would prefer our office do going forward.
So,
You definitely want.
right, but I have a question. You know, you're asking for, if somebody just is a renter, you're asking for a year's lease. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, asking for a year's lease. If I would think that you'd want, I would be happy with seeing a letter from the tenant, from the owner saying this is, or from the owner itself, that this person lives here. He may not, you know, at the time, he's living there, whether it's a year's lease or whether it's a 6-month lease or just renting month to month. I would feel better about that.
Okay, what we were just
But
trying.
that's just me, I don't know about anybody.
What we were trying to avoid with the long-term lease is just the summer people coming up for a week or, you know, just renting the summer, things like that.
Right.
But I'll do whatever,
I
whatever the
just feel
board.
as though, I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people that, like, for instance, I have a son. He may want to come home and stay for 6 months, or a year, or whatever, or maybe forever, I don't know.
You never know.
But, and I know there's a lot of people like that in town, and that's all I'm saying. I just think that
I
it would be
agree.
better, but that's,
So rather
what's
than
everybody else?
disenfranchise those folks, because that's really what it would, although there are other ways you can get, do you have to have a car, you don't have a car registration nor to vote, you need to be a resident.
No, but it's just one of the options
It's just
to-
one of the options, so it doesn't
register.
prevent you from voting if you
No.
don't have it.
No, there's
So
other ways,
I-
but people do use that quite frequently.
But,
It's a tough one.
yeah,
And I don't even need an answer tonight if you want to
Well,
think it
I think
over.
it's,
Well,
I
but
think
it's
it's
fun to talk
important.
about it. Let's
I do
start.
think it's important, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you need a
But-
written, just because,
Yeah.
because I think you have to, because we do have rules. And we don't want we don't want you guys to be in a position where somebody says, show me. So that doesn't make any sense. So we need something. I
Right.
think the question is, where do we bucket it? I'd have to think it through, but I think I would have, I don't know why we would go month to month. I think the intent here is to have it more residency based, so you would definitely
Well,
want somebody that's here for.
You have people coming, and you never know who, when, or where, but some people, you know, they come home for one reason or another, and they want to stay in their town, and they're living at the parents' house, and you're gonna tell them, well, you got to go ahead and wait a year before you can.
No,
But
they
that's-
they can come in and
You-
say that they've now moved home, they're living with their
And mom and
parents.
dad have written a note.
But I think they need a note from
Yeah.
wherever they're
right,
living,
right.
Yeah,
saying
but
that
the
they do
intent
live
is
there.
that they're not gonna be here for a month. The intent is that they're going to live here longer term, greater than 6 months.
The intent is that they have established residency in town and you,
Right,
right? So
right.
Do you have a list of what, when they say I'm a resident, do you have a list of items that would prove that to you? You know,
Well,
like-
it really depends on what we're doing. For cars specifically, no. We require that they, right now, provide proof of residency and/or taxpayer status.
And what do you take for that proof?
We take a agreement or a letter from the property owner, a lease agreement or the letter.
You don't take a fuel oil bill in their name at that address,
Utility bill.
utility bill.
We would probably if someone brought that in, but they typically, and then the other problem is if it's in one person's name and there's two people, like a husband and wife who don't have the same name,
Oh, yeah.
then that only helps one of them.
I got it.
So, I mean, we do try to be flexible, for sure, and the other thing is fairness, because I let that gentleman do it with his driver's license because he was getting so agitated. But, you know, if a woman had come in 2 hours before and didn't have it, and we sent her home to get it, that's not fair to her, to have to drive home, get the document, bring it back, and then I let him go because I had nothing to show him in writing.
can I suggest, I think we're all in agreement that you probably need something, but maybe we just need to look at this a little bit more and,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and
fine.
talk to you about, run some scenarios by you before
Yeah,
we
that's
adopt
fine.
anything.
Actually, I read it through, and
It looked good, but I think we need to be more specific of what we will accept as proof of residency.
Yeah,
I think
I think things like
bulleted
utility
list,
bill,
yeah,
yeah, just like
bulleted list.
so
Bank
even though the
statement.
names might be wrong in that case, some other cases they might be right. So I think if you just open the aperture and allow a lot of things in, you know, but they're listed,
But make it reasonable and have them listed. I think that
Yeah.
would be a good thing to add.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
And this is because people want to register,
to their cars.
to
And
register
pay
their
money.
cars.
I mean, in points, it's cheaper to register in a lot of different states than here, so,
That's
you know,
true.
if they're.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is an excise issue. If someone actually lives in Arundel is owed that money for excise as opposed to Kennebunkport. We're taking Arundel's money.
Well, I don't,
And so, just saying, just saying. And in the document, there were a few other things like inland fisheries and the Goose Rocks beach stickers. Those both are in writing through other documents. Like the Goose Rocks beach sticker is part of the ordinance that it says you have to provide your rental agreement. So that one I'm not so worried about, but I just wanted to have one document where everything is in one place. And inland fisheries has their own requirements that we follow, but again, I just thought I would lay everything out in one document to make it easier. So.
I think you're right, John, about making a list.
Yeah.
yeah. Because sometimes you can take bank statements, credit card statements, you know,
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
being mailed.
A
So-
letter
well,
from the owner
PO
if they're
boxes can be
renting.
different things too, but,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Sounds good.
we'll continue working on it.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, public discussion and input on the proposed June 2024 ordinance changes. Galen? You have anything else to add to the, any differences, or everything's the same?
Yeah, so I actually.
Not limping as badly as you did
No,
last
no,
time.
it's working. PT's a blessing. No, for the first ordinance, the floodplain management ordinance, nothing has changed there. I did talk to the town solicitor today. She has no comments to add to that section currently. So if there's no questions on the floodplain management ordinance, I'll move to the land use ordinance. So for the land use ordinance, there are a few things. I just want to bring to your attention that the town solicitor realizes that there's some changes in state law that, you know, we may need to update some of these ordinances that we're dealing with. One being your short-term rental license. As you know, in our short-term rental license, there's a 30-day appeal for a denial of a license, which we are missing. So I just want to make you aware that that language is not currently what's in front of you right now, but it's probably going to be added later in the town solicitor's revisions to you. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Something that's related to land use ordinance that I wanted to bring to your attention that is in another ordinance is in chapter 140. We've been working with the town clerk on this. This is your special events and mass gatherings. And so your current ordinance allows individuals to have commercial activity outside of a non-commercial area. And so that's just something that we need to explore a little bit on what we'd like to do about that. There's been a change in the shift that's occurring in town about wedding event venues. You know, Airbnb was the first thing. Now it's wedding event venues. And so people are having these types of activities on private property, and so it's commercial activity. It's not just for a family member, a wedding, you know, for that. They're actually getting money, compensation to go through this. We've had so far one instance in town, Black Rock Farms, which went in front of the planning board through site plan review process. The only use I had available was a restaurant use for them to go. And that was the closest I could get, because restaurants and hotels are historically where you would see wedding events. But our ordinance is silent on what we'd like to do for special events, or like a venue that does events. So that's just something that the GPC is looking into that right now. I just want to make you aware that we did talk to the town solicitor, and we're trying to find something that would work to alleviate this concern. But that's not in front of you right now. I just wanted to make
So
you
alleviate the concern, meaning that we would be more open to doing things like this throughout the town?
Yeah, because right now, you're allowed to do this under the
Special
mass gathering, which was not the original intent of what that
license was for. It was more for traffic control, road closures, for large community events or protests or things that are occurring, like Prelude. But in that section, it allows for one commercial one commercial gathering every 120 days on a parcel of land. And so that language is allowing people to have multiple commercial type
It's like tent
activities.
weddings now are very,
No, but this is not for a family. So what I'm thinking right now is like the wedding cake house that got voted down in Kennebunk.
Yep, that was
Because
contract zoned.
they were essentially trying to do this.
Mhm.
And for, noise and for,
Black Rock Farm is like a big field. And I think what they want to do is just have tent weddings every weekend.
I know, but Black Rock Farm also has neighbors all around it.
Yep.
And,
But they got approval, and they did limit them on their activity and what they can do. So they did go through the process. But right now, what I'm saying is your current special events mass gathering license has been used to allow people to do basically 2 per year that they can do on their
But only
private
2 per
property.
year, not every
Right.
week.
So they're looking for weekly.
I
So
think the challenge is we have a land use ordinance that's dealing with zoning and neighbors and neighborhoods and what should go on there. And then over here, we have this mass gathering ordinance that probably dealt back in the time when Bush was president and we were having, people doing protests and all kinds of things were happening, Prelude, da-da-da-da-da. But the mass gathering has a requirement that it involves so many people participating, whereas commercial activity can happen with smaller numbers that aren't covered. And so there's this disconnect between the two, and we're trying to look at them and see how that might impact and how there might be unintended consequences. And I think Galen's just giving you a heads up that we're continuing to investigate that.
Yep. Okay. And then in other discussions with the town solicitor, so this is with the land use ordinance, you'll see that there is new language in front of you. And so my apologies for that. With my surgery being out of the office, staff has tried to put the ordinance that was in front of you. There were some missing provisions though that the GPC did talk about. And that was relating all to shoreland zoning, and it's in compliance with Chapter 1000. So that's the state model ordinance. I talked to the town solicitor, and she agrees. You're just doing the bare minimum of what's required under the ordinance. So I can go over some of those sections with you if you have questions. Specifically, the areas that we were looking at there was a missing definition for a tree, which was kind of important since we're dealing with tree hazards and replanting requirements. That was a missing definition. There was performance standards that were missing, and so we took care of that in the next section with the different uses that are allowed in the shoreland zone and resource protection zone. So we're clearing this up to model the state ordinance. So when you have shoreland zoning, that is a state mandated ordinance. And towns, we get busy with things. We don't always update our ordinance to mirror what the state has. We can be more restrictive than the state, but we can't be more lenient. And so what I'm trying to do as the planner is bring you back into compliance with the state because there's been so many missing provisions or changes that have occurred at the state level that have been more restrictive, and we just haven't updated our ordinance to deal with that. And so you're going to see some of the uses have shifted a little bit. For example, 2-family dwellings aren't allowed in the resource protection district anymore. That was a change at the state level. Instead, single family is the only thing that's allowed in the resource protection district, which keeps you in compliance with your non-conforming use section. So for a non-conforming lot, you are allowed by right to build a single-family home on that premise. It was a lot of record way back when. So that is still preserving those rights that people can still do a single-family home. You just can't do a 2-family.
what about the ADUs laid on top of that?
Yep, ADU in your performance standards already covers that. You need to have double shore frontage and double lot coverage in order to have an ADU. So that's already in your performance design standards.
So you can do it, but it's as if you had a.
You have to have double lot,
Yeah.
yep. And the state, that's in the state.
Yeah.
That was already taken care of with shoreline zoning, because they do not want you to increase the intensity of use or residential development in those critically environmentally sensitive areas. So those are some changes there. There is one topic that came up with the town solicitor. Again, she doesn't see any major hiccups here with the language, but she did want to bring to your attention, we did have a recent case that came before the town, and it related to the shore frontage that you need for a dock. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention. If you go to the section 24511, so it should be numerical for you.
You got a lot of words here.
I know.
517.
240, 11?
240. Did you say
24511.
245.
I only go to page, I only go to 240.
Yeah, we only go
That's
to
it.
240.
Yeah.
I
all I
got
have.
24517.
Keep going.
That's-
Oh, I
there's
go
nothing-
beyond
No,
that?
sorry,
nothing left.
517, you need to go back then, if you're at 517.
If I go back, then I go back to 219.
Whoever finds it, could they yell out the page number?
We don't have 245.
We don't have it.
We don't have 245.
You should have it.
No,
No.
It goes up to 240.
we wouldn't lie to you.
I know.
Well,
I got 219.
awful lot to find in here.
Goes to 240.
Where is she? Say it again.
So you guys got papers. This is where paper really does work. Scroll.
Don't
scrolling?
tell them that, John.
Oh, so they won't be able to tell us the number.
So you're gonna have to help us on that.
24417?
So don't look at the top page number, it's 24511.
Okay. Oh,
You don't look at the top header.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't look at the top, but it's still my, the last one I've got here is 2401112. Right? And again, you got paper, man. Paper.
I know.
Where am I here? Why am I off? Why am I there?
I only have 240.
Oh, it's 240.
Yeah, 11. So you need to go to 5.
I'd go to 245. You said 245.
240 dash
240-5.
Oh,
I need to say your dash,
Yeah.
my man. I'm looking for 245.
I still, no,
You're not the only one.
no, I'm
You're not-
still, I was looking for what,
245, three numbers.
240 dash.
did you find it?
240-5.
240
11.
dash 5.
I know,
Got
I
it.
got the dash,
I
but I
found
only
it.
see, oh, wow.
I got it right there.
I only have
John, do you have the
517.
page number?
I got 17.
I pulled it up
Hold on.
online.
I got 17, I got 12.
245 dash, what number?
Dash
240
11.
240 dash
11.
5 dash 11. All right,
Yes.
so we're getting
Are you there? You're good?
No, we're getting there.
Now, see, mine
I
says
got
17.
2, 5,
We're
10. I
right,
got
we're
it
right there,
close. I got it.
Where are you?
right here.
What page?
240
What page?
dash
Page
5 dash
74.
11.
74
Page 74.
Okay.
You can ask me.
of the
Jeez.
262?
We having fun yet? Alrighty. God, I hope this was important.
Yes, it is.
All right, I got it.
Because the town solicitor does need,
245.11.
we need guidance on what you want to do on this, in this case.
Good.
So,
Structures.
if you're at that section,
We're here, we're there.
They're
okay,
there.
Well,
I want you to go to subsection, it has B in
Oh,
it,
my gosh.
and it should be on the first page, that it's right there.
This is your new B.
Yep, this is your new B. And I want you to go to the next page, and it's the first number, it's 4.
B4, okay.
Yes, are you there?
I see that.
Accessory
Okay.
residential.
Yeah,
building.
So,
Stacks and
you'll
wharves.
remember that we
Doing
had a conversation about a certain project that was in before you,
Yes.
about
I remember.
what is the shore frontage necessary for a dock or a pier that's going in front of you all for Wharf and Weir.
Right.
And the question was, does this apply to commercial piers? Because this section that you're seeing right here, that 4, that is not in shoreland zoning in chapter 1000. That's not a state requirement, it's something that was done at the local level for the town of Kennebunkport. So this is unique to Kennebunkport. So the question that, that Amy and I would like clarification on is what direction or what guidance does the board want to go in commercial pier activity? And so that's that's where I'm leaving it. I can give you some guidance on what I would think that how we would interpret this moving
I don't
forward.
even know what it is.
So, but this is talking, because it says residential piers, it doesn't say
Correct.
residential and commercial.
Correct.
So you're asking, should we put and commercial in this, or would we be okay doing that?
So what I'm gonna give you a little bit of, there is a change in the land use ordinance that's in front of you, and I don't wanna keep flipping pages to help you with this. But we changed the shoreland zoning lot standards. We struck out other uses, because that is something else that was not defined in the state model ordinance. It's supposed to be a water-dependent use. You're supposed to be doing something that's water-related outside of just a residence. In that section, you'll notice there is a change in your ordinance, and you can look at that section. I believe it's 416. I'm not gonna have you go there. But we basically allow for governmental, commercial, industrial uses for the principal building. You need 40,000 square feet of lot area, and then you need a shore frontage of 200 feet.
Oh, wow, that's significantly.
So it's in there.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an expert in maritime activities and how it all works, so if that is too restrictive, the state does allow you to add a different zone in, which we can certainly do for existing locations if that's required. The state allows for commercial fishing and marina activities that have no shore frontage requirements, and that's for commercial type instances. So Amy and I are not experts in this, so that's where we sort of need to default to the select board on, your experiences in living in a maritime community. What would be an appropriate use, or are you comfortable with the 200?
I'm not comfortable with that at
I
all.
think that's too
That's
much.
way too much for
Two,
shoreline.
200 feet and almost 40,000 square feet?
That's an
Yeah, that's
Which
the
is an
state,
acre.
that's the state requirement.
That's just shy of an
Yeah.
acre.
Yeah, it's a big business.
But
That
that's,
would be a big business.
Yeah.
I mean, that was certainly not a local fisherman or something.
Right.
I mean, some of these lots are just an eighth of an acre, you know?
So we got to keep in mindset here, but there's two different things. So we have the accessory residential is what you currently have for 60 feet of shore frontage that's required. So
I
that's,
thought it was 100 feet. No, it's 60?
no, it's 60.
Okay,
So that's for accessory residential.
okay.
That's not for a commercial activity. It's accessory residential. So it's like someone, I guess, like having a kayak launch or something for the
They have a
residents.
home,
Right.
but they have 60 feet, they can put a pier out and put their boat on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, that's covered there, but you don't have the case where you have these boathouses, and this is the concern, is these boathouses get changed into a commercial activity.
Right.
And they come before you for wharf and weir, what shore frontage would be appropriate? Because the application that we had before didn't fall under this requirement. So right now, there is no shore frontage requirement for commercial, because we were silent.
Right.
I can tell you, I owned 2 fish houses at one time. And I had 60 feet on one, and I had 48 feet on the other. And that was at the head of the cove in Cape Porpoise. So, they're just really small, tiny lots, most of them, that has a fish house on it. I can't think of, I think I had one at the head of the cove that had a lot bigger lot size than that, because I had parking and everything else, but.
So I mean, part of this is, when you think about a pier and a float system and the impacts, that you're gonna have vessels coming to it, you're going to have activity around it, and on these very small lots and small shore frontage, you're gonna impact neighbors potentially more, or they have a float, and so, how are these gonna go together? And so right now, it is a minimum of 60 feet in subdivisions and condominiums, but if you have 100 feet, you can have 2. I think it does make sense that we think about some minimum footage in terms of how many of these things are we going to allow. So I'll remember a time when we were going to wharf and weir hearings all the time, and there was talk amongst some people who are no longer here, that, we ought to prohibit it and have a moratorium on floats and docks. And so, and we have seen floats and docks in areas where we have questioned the financial sense of people to do it. So I think the question is, do you want to limit it? And I think when we were going through that commercial piece, it's like, why wouldn't a commercial have to at least meet the residential standard?
Right.
Because they're going to have probably a higher activity level than a residence.
And larger
So
boats.
I have a question about that. So, taking the old bowling alley, we had 48 feet. So the bowling alley falls down. You can't rebuild it?
So we're not saying you can't rebuild it.
Well, but it won't fall into that 60 foot.
That's a different issue, that's all over the water
So,
right
so,
now.
I think there's
Yeah.
different apples. So you were talking about a non-conforming structure. So it was always out being operated as a commercial boathouse. And it had a pier, right?
It did.
Right. And so that is allowed to keep existing in its continuance because it is a non-conforming, it existed well before shoreline zoning ever took place. So as long as it's being used in that operation, that capacity, this is for new
For new,
wharf,
New
new
only.
piers, new,
And if you rebuild it in that time
Right,
period, you
you're
can.
fine.
With new
You're-
flood zone, you might have to build it higher if it knocked all the way down. But you can rebuild things as long as you do it in a time period. The question is how many new additions and how close do we want them to be?
so this is new,
okay,
yes.
all right.
And that I don't have guidance, I need guidance from the board because I'm not an expert in, Amy and I both are like, we don't know.
You know, to me, it's
How
so,
many places in town even now, we don't have that many areas, I think.
You don't think we do?
We do.
Well,
Is
can
it-
we
to me,
get
it's-
guidance from other towns that are similar to us? I mean, was there any guidance from,
Amy was very struck that we have this provision about allowing for accessory residential piers, because this is not something that other towns have. We sort of did a little carve out already, for that activity. But commercial activity should be following what the state has for shoreline zoning, not non-conforming ones.
And the state has 200?
That's, the
State has
state
200.
allows for 240,000 for the lot. But you can create a special district, within shoreline zoning. It's sort of like the general development district. So you have Dock
Okay.
Square. It's in shoreline zoning, but it doesn't apply to
so wait a
that
minute,
area.
are we talking about commercial or are we talking about
We're
residential?
talking about commercial.
Commercial.
Commercial, you're silent on right now.
Okay,
Right
so,
now, what
but
Galen's-
you said commercial has to be per
So-
state, which is 200.
Yes,
So
but
is
we
that
can be, we
something-
can be more restrictive, we just can't be
Right.
less restrictive.
So are you and
we can say
Amy working
less.
on that now?
yes, we're working on
And
that.
you're gonna give us that little new section for
Yes.
commercial?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Well, wait a minute, how is less than 200 is more restricted?
We can be. We can be more restrictive than the state, we just can't be.
less
You can't be more, you can't be lenient.
So 200 would be
The
a
minimum.
minimum for those kind of industrial uses.
And commercial fishing is not considered industrial.
Why wouldn't that?
It's
Is that
commercial,
correct?
in commercial industrial, it would apply.
It depends on what you're.
So it's new commercial and industrial
It is.
operations that are looking to be operating on the shoreline zone. They would follow that
That
criteria.
are not already operating.
So wait a minute, I'm still
Yeah.
confused. If the state says for commercial, you have to have 200.
Yep,
Then we could only say above 200.
No,
We
you-
can't go smaller.
correct.
You could say 200 or.
So we can say 250,
But-
but we can't say
We can't say
60.
100.
Or we can't say 60 feet.
You can, if you want to designate that special district I just talked to you about.
Right.
That special district gives you, right now, it's in your ordinance right now, I have it
Bypass the
drafted.
state.
It requires no lot
Wait a minute,
size.
did I just pick up a chance card? I get confused where I am on the
Yes,
board.
Yes.
So,
So you have no lot size requirement and no shore frontage, but it has to be in a commercial fisheries and marine activities district, which we don't currently have.
and we need
So
that.
they're gonna work,
But
yeah.
yes,
they
we
said
can
they're
add
gonna
it in
work
certain
on it.
locations, we just don't know where you want it.
So let's
Back up.
simplify. So we can go and bring you the language that we think makes sense and how to accomplish it. I think the real question from Amy and Galen is, what is the minimum frontage for commercial activities you want? What makes sense from a marine
You know,
Okay,
exercise.
and I'm just saying,
it's so
so-
much dependent on what's around it. It depends on where that frontage is to me. I could see 60 feet working some places, I could see it being possible in others.
But remember,
this
in a
is-
wharf and weir, you're gonna look at other things.
Well, right.
But you have to have a minimum to get through the door to have the hearing.
So-
And what's the minimum you want people to come in the door with?
So the
60.
question, what
So
you're
we
saying,
have
Laurie,
setbacks,
is
too.
I would say
if it's
That's right,
commercial,
Dave.
if,
I would keep it low.
if the commercials, the minimum for the state is 200 for commercial? And we can't go below that
Yes,
unless
we can.
unless
Yes.
we have a special district
Yes.
set up,
Correct, yes.
okay? Which we don't have right now.
We
We're
don't have-
setting it up.
So, all right, so I think you need to work some language and maybe some examples.
geez,
And
thanks.
come in with some, no, and come in with some examples.
That's what he says he's
Yeah,
gonna do.
yeah.
All
I
right,
just
we'll
want to
work
try
on
Let's
it.
just, why
Yes.
don't we work on this?
Thank
Bring us
you.
back something to look at.
Yes.
I think what you're hearing is
Galen.
60 feet,
Yeah,
Because I hate making it too,
60 feet.
thank you.
because then we
Thank you.
still have the wharf and weir to decide whether that 60 feet works or not.
Okay, 12,
couldn't
discussion
even
of the
find that
Colony
way.
Beach parking.
So this is another fun topic.
This is what Eric's
At
been
least
waiting
60
for.
feet.
I think we need a moment because I think we're losing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, how much longer?
This is relatively straightforward.
No, it's not.
No, it is, it is, it's straightforward.
You would think, but not tonight with us.
So on the Colony Beach is the,
Colony.
so the discussion around the Colony Beach is back in, I think if you find in the memo, back in 2023, we had some storms that hit Colony Beach. So January 23rd, 2023, we had a storm on the beach. We restricted some of the parking there. We just wanted to make sure that vehicles didn't get too far out of the parking areas, that they might get stuck in some of the live cobble that was there. And so we kind of restricted the parking. We set up a couple Jersey barriers just to limit where they would park. We allowed that to happen. At that time, Chris Simeone had brought forward some pricing to do some repairs on the beach and try to reestablish the parking there. The board at that time, on May 25th, agreed to allocate $36,000 to make improvements to the parking lot, reestablish parking, and to possibly go forward with that. Subsequently, in January 10th and January 13th, 2024, we had some more storms that overtopped the jetty area in that area. And at that point, we opted to just close the parking down until further notice. We had not expended the $36,000 at that time.
So
However,
just to note, the reason why we didn't do the repairs that year was because we had to get a permit, and because the US Army Corps actually owns the land, we had to get a new agreement from them.
Yes.
And it took over 6 months to
It took
do
forever.
that.
Yes, I should have provided that clarity. I mean, it just, we had to go through because the jetty
So
is.
anyway,
Yeah.
that happened. That's why January came and it washed out the rest.
Right.
So we saved money.
So, right, so the Corps of Engineer owns the jetty, we had to get permission to be able to do this work, so. So at this point, we halted just doing any work at this time. So what I'm doing right now is bringing this back to you, there's probably a permit by rule situation, we do have permission for the Corps of Engineers at this time. The next permit that we would need to get is a permit by rule permit through the Department of Environmental Protection. And so, typically they allow you a window of 2 years to go back and reestablish what may have been damaged. And honestly, I mean, there isn't a lot of damage there, it's just really, it's not a great parking area right now, we just don't want vehicles to spin out and such. The beach is still there, and the parking is still there if we want it. We just need to reestablish a gravel base.
So at the time, we came back after the January 24 storms and said, we don't know what's gonna happen. You know, we'd had 2 storms in a row. What do you want us to do? And we all agreed to hold off, and last summer it was not open all summer. We have been talking with engineers and other experts in the field, looking for some other options, and we've come to the determination that there is not a long-term solution without spending an astronomical amount of money. And the question is this a this is a maintenance issue. We have to look at it as a maintenance issue, or we're not gonna open the parking anymore, and the window is probably closing on opening that parking back up.
Because it is a dune. We're not gonna be able to build a wall and do what you would need to do if you really wanted to preserve it and make it resilient.
We need the parking for that area.
Okay.
Colony Beach is very important to us, and I'm in favor of fixing it. And it, like you just said, it's a maintenance issue, but those parking spots are they're really needed there. And I don't wanna lose it. And once you lose it, you've lost it, and you're never gonna get it back again.
Right. The area,
I'd like to see it open again.
to Lori's point, it is considered a dune, and John's point as well. It is considered a dune in that location, a front dune and a rear dune in that location. So they would not let us set up any structures, so to give us more resiliency in the area. So it's very unlikely they would give us that right, so the point being is it would be a maintenance, so.
So, you know, it was for 100 years, the thing was fine, and all of a sudden, you get two perfect storms that ruined it. Is it gonna happen again? It probably will someday, hopefully not in the near
Maybe
future.
100 years
It's
from
very
now.
important, that parking is very important to that area. But that's my feeling, I don't know what anybody else
So,
thinks.
so for you to bring it back to at least, an area that would take parking, and also the use of the beach, because I used to bring my family there, what's the damage?
What we would do is we would excavate the live cobble.
She's asking how much money?
How much money?
What the board has allocated is 36,000, I guess we'll try to work within that budget.
We have
I was gonna say,
That was
is that
before
all?
the storm.
We have $36,000.
I-
We haven't spent it yet.
Well, let's see
Well,
what we can get out of it.
It's back, we don't have 36,000, we're choosing to take a new cost of 36,000, it's not
No.
sitting on.
We
No,
have it.
No, we do
you
have it,
put it
John.
aside, it's
We
in a
put it to one
designated
side.
account. We haven't spent it.
So it
have
is
not
in a designated
Yep,
account, all right.
it is.
I thought it went back to the general fund.
No, it went into a capital
Okay.
account.
Eric, what do you think it would cost? So my understanding is we would want to do this so that we don't lose the license to be able to use it. Or we're going to lose it if we don't do anything, we lose the license, we can never do it again without applying for a license. What do you think it would cost to maintain or fix whatever needs to be fixed down there, just to allow people to park? Would 36,000 cover it?
We would work through that.
But then if you spend the 36, we have another storm, filled in again with more rocks and all that stuff again, we're back to another $36,000 to reopen that parking lot again.
I think you should think about a $50,000.
No, I'm just saying it's 36 or
Yeah.
50,000 bucks. I
Yeah.
mean, every time, to your point, guys down there, we may not have another storm for years and the parking's there for good. But we could have, these guys could do it and then a hurricane could come in July and wipe it all out again and we'll be back to
Right,
having to
it
do
could
it.
wipe up the town, too.
Right. I don't.
You can't play the what if.
No, I know, but I understand where you want the license so you don't lose it, but maybe it is, we do it, but if it happens again, we're not paying to maintain it again. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
My concern is we have an awful lot of expenses that we're going to be facing in terms of building resiliency that are a lot more are more important to the town, I think, than 10 parking places. There are areas you can park up along Parsons Way, there's still parking there, I think you're spending good money against bad. That area is not gonna last, it's just the wrong place for a parking lot.
You can say the same thing about the dunes in Goose Rocks Beach, the exact same thing. They're there today, we spent the money.
It's apples and oranges in terms of the number of folks that have access to the ocean between Goose Rocks Beach and Colony Beach. So you gotta draw the line somewhere.
Well, I'm not drawing the
And you
line.
just keep spending money and throwing money, and we could throw money at it again, but I'll tell you, if it washes away again, it's the last time I'm gonna be throwing money at something that is clearly, very vulnerable to what is coming, so. That's my feeling.
Understood.
Mary Beth, you have
Yeah,
nothing?
Mary Beth, you haven't said a word.
Nothing. You're very quiet on this one.
It's not like you.
Are you sick?
Oh, I got my new haircut.
I didn't notice.
You didn't notice. Yeah, so, you know, I can go, I mean, everybody has good points, and we've been down this road. You know, so it goes back to the point of, do we potentially wash away 36 or 50,000? And I think that's, I guess I'm sort of approaching it the same way as I thought about as the sand dunes, not in terms of how many people can park there, but it was like, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can grow back the dunes. And I think I'm sort of in the same boat on this one, saying, okay, let's give it a try. And if a hurricane comes this summer and it's gone, then we don't do it. And then we can at least say to the town who access that area. It is a beach that's widely visited, and yes, people do park up on the road. I think we can at least say that we gave it a shot, and we don't lose the ability for the permitting. I think that's the most important thing. So will this last for 5 years? Will it last for 1 year? Will it last a month after it is done? I don't know, but I think we're on the coastal thing. I agree with you, John, that we have a lot of big projects that we're looking to do for resiliency, and we should still keep our head down and go forward with those. But I do think there's some of these that are on the edges that we're just gonna have to roll the dice, and I think it's at a level. If we were talking like $100,000, I'd probably be on a hard no on this one. But I think, you know, 36,000.
50.
I'm gonna keep saying 36,000. That was in the mail note here.
Yeah, well,
That's in writing.
That was an estimate before the January.
But
storm.
we have that money. That money's been
right,
put
that's,
aside.
that's what was
Yeah.
approved in the direction I'm quite certain that the manager will be giving me, is
Before
that's my
the
number.
January
We need a
storm.
motion for this.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we do the job at Kennebunk Beach to open up the parking.
Not
Cowan.
Kennebunk Beach, Colony Beach.
Colony
Now we're
Beach.
giving money away.
Now we're throwing money to other towns.
It's only 36,000. That we do the work at Colony Beach to bring back not only the parking, but the enjoyment of the water.
I have a first. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor? I don't see any hands. How many hands do we have up?
4.
1, 2, 3, 4 to 1. Okay.
You have to say opposed.
What's that?
You have to say opposed.
It could be abstained.
Opposed. Are you abstained or opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, okay. So 4 yes, 1 no. All right. 13, discussion of waste tipping contract.
I do have a question though, just, if it goes over 36K, will you be coming back to request more funds?
I'm not intending to do that. So I intend to try to stay within the
So
budget.
did we put 36 in your motion or not? Did you
I did
mention the
not.
number? You did not, very wise of you.
Thank you.
So, all
Can we amend the motion? Is that what you
I
want?
think we're good.
right, we're good. I'm gonna take the
Eric says we
boss's,
can
I'll
do it
take
from
the
the
boss's nod
do
on
it
that.
for
We're good.
36,000.
We're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
Ego?
Just.
tipping.
Tipping.
Yes, so I think everybody's, or, you know, most of the board has had a chance to go visit the facility of Echo Maine.
Yeah.
As you all know, we've been negotiating with Casella, that's been our vendor over the years for recycling as well as MSW, which is municipal waste, solid waste. We're given an opportunity by the Echo Maine to actually either enter into an ownership agreement with Echo Maine or enter into a contract
With Casella.
with Echo Maine as
Oh, with
well.
Eco Maine.
So one is an ownership into Echo Maine, and the other one would actually to contract with Echo Maine over a 30-year period. So they're willing to provide us either we buy into the equity into Echo Maine, or we actually become a contract they become a contract vendor for them. So we would be taking our MSW as well as our recycling to Echo Maine. The third is work with Casella, which is the third option for us. Casella had provided us pricing prior to. And we thought we were going down a direction that we thought we were getting comfortable in, one way or the other. We thought we'd be heading in the Echo Bay. And in the most recent weeks, Casella's come back and provided us new pricing. So which really kind of threw us a little bit, got us last minute, if you will. We're still working through those numbers and trying to find out what the devil is in the details, if you will. And we don't have those details yet. So we're really asking that we pause a little bit on this until we get better and more refined numbers. So we're dealing apples and apples with contract ownership, or going with Casella, which would be going to Juniper Ridge instead, which is another facility. So
It's a pain to delay, but it's an opportunity to get.
So just to get a little feedback from the board, we got new pricing yesterday from Casella, and then we had some clarifying calls with them today and got more information. Basically, we have 4 options. One is continue to contract with Casella and take waste and recycling to Casella. The other, as Eric said, is EcoMaine ownership. The third is EcoMaine contract. The fourth is Casella said, would you bring us your recycling and let your waste go to to EcoMaine? So we could do a split. We could go, all with Casella, all with EcoMaine. So one of the questions, we were asked was about, liability, and we did reach out to our attorneys and talk to them about it. I think their concern was you're taking ownership of not only a landfill, but an energy plant, and there's a lot of licensing. And as an owner, you're not just liable for the waste that you're putting in there, but you're also liable for all the operations and everybody else's. And is that additional potential liability worth the savings you are going to have? Mm-hmm. And I think what Eric and I heard was that seemed like a lot of liability for that. Today, we had a conversation with our attorney, and she said, "Oh, what do you mean? That's I didn't tell you to do that." And we were like, we disagree. And you should read the email you sent us. So I think, attorneys are always hesitant to be pinned in a position to be seen as managing us, and we understand that it is our job to manage and to undertake the analysis on those risks. I think what we heard today was keep in mind that the liability is only the percentage of ownership, so that we will probably be an owner of 1% to 2%. And so that is a small amount of the liability, even though the liability is larger. So we just wanted to share that feedback from the attorneys today. The other thing we were asked is, what are other communities doing? And what I'm hearing from other communities is that it seems like a large group of the smaller communities are all going to the EcoMaine ownership model. Wells is still weighing it one way or the other. Sanford is going to the EcoMaine ownership model, I understand. Kennebunk, as you know, voted to go to EcoMaine. We had a conversation with the manager from Kennebunk today, and the board is going to vote on that on February 25th, but that they are moving in that direction. So with each of these communities I've contacted, I have expressed the concerns we heard about liability and tried to gauge whether those were concerns. I think we heard from other communities that some believe in the regional partnership model and that this makes sense to them because of other regional partnerships they partake in, and that we have similar goals, and that, attorneys tend to be hyper concerned. I think for Kennebunk, and we heard from a couple of different people that they had some legal advice that was not as conservative as the legal advice we received. We played that legal advice out to our attorney to see what their thoughts were. I don't think our attorney feels the same way that these other attorneys did. But, you know, what some of the feedback I heard is, well, what are other people doing, or why are they going in this direction? So I think part of the question is, you know, what are the goals in making this decision? Because if the goal is to get it done for the least expensive cost, you know, that is one goal. If the goal is to not have our trash going to a landfill, you know, that's another goal. And if our goal is to, you know, work with regional partners, you know, so it's like they all tip the balance. What we are seeing based on the numbers from Casella is Casella's coming in at the 11th hour and changing their pricing and are willing to remove some things from the previous proposed contract.
How long would their contract be?
So they are willing to do that. And so what I heard today from Casella is that they are only willing to do a 4-year contract. So they were offering 5 years, and now they would like to, if we're gonna send waste and recycling to them, they wanna align it with our pickup contract. So that means it would start July 1st of '25 this summer, and it would end August 31st of '29. So we basically would have 4 years and 2 months. And they said then we would have another option to renew for 5 years on mutually agreeable terms. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, you know, we normally just mimic the old contract. And I said, well, I'm talking about price. And they said, well, we'd have to look at what the, you know, challenges in the market are at that point. And I said, well, if, you know, mutually agreeable sounds great, except if everything's on the table, then it's really hard for me to do a long-term projection. And so are we saying there are any parameters around it, like there'd be a maximum CPI, or, you know, that it would go up no more than that? So they went back to talk to the big bosses, and the email I got late today was that no, there would be no parameters. So they're offering us a very, very good price for 4 years. And then
After
it's
that,
off.
all bets are
So
off.
we asked, what if Juniper Ridge doesn't get permitted? And they think that it will, but then they offered us facilities in other states. So they talked about New York and Pennsylvania. My concern there is those transportation costs are gonna have an impact.
Carbon footprint, everything else, yeah.
So we're trying to put all, I mean, there's a lot of information on the plate right now, and we're trying to simplify it and give you something to compare to. But I think what would help Eric and I in refining that for you is like, what are those measures for you going to be? Because if you want the cheapest deal, I can give you the cheapest deal, but it's for 4 years.
Yeah.
And if you want a longer deal, you know, usually in life, you blend these decision points, right? And so it's not just that, or it's not just this.
So just some notes here, we talked about some of the variables with Casella. So we asked the further question, Juniper Ridge is currently, they're going for a new license at Juniper Ridge. If they do get their license, it's an 11-year window. We're looking at roughly a 20-year window with Echo Main plus enough capacity for an additional 20 years thereafter. So there's those kind of fixed.
And they're ash, they're not solid.
Right, hence
Right,
the
they're burning
capacity.
instead of filling.
So those are kind of the consistencies that we're looking for, as much as they say, yes, we can, Casella says we can, you know, we'll give you this price for the 4 years, but there is those outstanding, what is your landfill doing? Because obviously without a landfill, there is no business model for any of them. So those are some of the questions, and they can assure us, you know, when we receive answers such as, well, we have alternate facilities in New York and Pennsylvania, I don't know how their numbers work anymore at that point. I mean, that's, obviously, there's gonna be a cost associated with that. So we have to be kind of mindful about that. I think they will hold their price for the 4 years. I'm confident, I felt confident that would be okay. It's the after the 4 years.
4
that I think
years
we need
is
to be
such a
thinking about.
short period of
It's too
time.
short.
That's all.
So, and those are the answers I think Lori and I have been trying to arrive at is, what can you truly guarantee us? And the reality is, I can guarantee you 4 years, and after that, it's
And I would
variable.
suspect that with the technology the way it is, you know, like changing so fast,
Yep.
that maybe in 20 years, you know, garbage is going to be
Gone.
sent up to the moon or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But with
I said
technology.
Mars. I
Mars,
said-
further away.
I say Venus.
But you know what I mean? Yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's true, and obviously, the economy is investing in new recycling facility right now, more efficiency, so on and so forth. Hopefully, that gives us better revenues if we do go that route, on those, but, that remains to be seen right now.
But you need to be an owner to really capitalize on that. Otherwise, you go up by the CPI anyway, but that's just
Yep.
another coin in the owner's slot.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, well,
Okay.
Yep.
So Lori's
more to
looking
come.
for,
What are you
she's
looking
looking,
for, Laurie, or?
she's
are
looking
is
for
this
some more time.
no,
more time?
Lori's looking for some guidance from us in
Well,
terms
I
of
mean, right,
parameters.
we'll go back and look at this, and like I said, we're getting these numbers very, very recently, so we wanna make sure we've captured it, but, you know, if you have any guidance about what are the most important factors for you, you know, and
So I think
Longevity.
I think longevity is a big thing, and I think that was one of the initial concerns with Casella. So, you know, the fact that we can't go beyond 4 is, I mean, that was one of the reasons that I think the whole board was saying no. I mean, I appreciate going back and talking about what the other towns did and what they saw for the liability. I wouldn't be able to sign up for it, though. That's too far for me. I like Echo Maine. I like going to Ash. I like the recycle. I like the whole package that they have. I just,
Yep.
you know, I just
Yeah.
would draw the
what about
line
you?
there.
I'm a little concerned with the Casella's, the 4-year contract. It doesn't bother me as much as the resistance to even give any kind of a cap on what those future uplifts would be in year 5. It just sounds like a hook to me. It sounds like, here's something really cheap, and we got you in, and then it just doesn't feel right. But unlike Mary Beth, I still believe that ownership is the way to go with EcoMaine. I believe there are some real benefits that outweigh the very small percentage of any potential risk we would have. So, but in terms of the Casella or Eco, to me, it seems Eco at this point in time for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, I don't want to make you do work that the board isn't going, I don't need you crunching numbers for Casella if the board isn't going to go with Casella. My concern, 4 years, I still am Eco-Maine right now, and I mean, if we just need to figure out between ownership or 30-year contract, that's another discussion we can have. Well, after what I heard, I don't have a problem with the ownership right now. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But I don't want to make you do work.
Yeah,
Looking
well,
at Casella stuff, if no one here is going to actually really
right,
entertain it.
and that's helpful because that means, I mean, so the cheapest option is Casella for 4 years. The most expensive option would be to mix Casella and EcoMaine together. And so that doesn't make any sense to do. So to me, if we're interested in something long-term, then we really need to talk to EcoMaine about their best deal they can offer us, either as owner or contract, and bring those two to you.
Yeah, and if there's any way, you remember the tonnage was an issue, if there's any way they can maybe work
Yes.
something in regarding the tonnage, and maybe we're over too much tonnage right now, but.
Sheila, you didn't comment.
Yeah, I think our buy-in's.
Okay.
Where are you at?
After thinking about this, after the last meeting, I agree with Mary Beth.
Oh, my God.
I don't think I want to have an ownership in it. If anything happened to EcoMaine, you know, we're a very litigious society. And if somebody sues them, then we are also responsible. I don't want to have to deal with that. I think if we had a long-term contract without any ownership, that would be my choice.
So one form of another is we're all pretty much on equal aim.
Yeah, and eco-main only, we're not gonna split the, we're not having the truck go to two different places.
Right. Because we're still gonna have Casella, even if we use.
For pickup,
Eco-Main.
yeah.
So-
As long as they let us renew in 4
And they do a
5
good
years.
job, I mean, I can't complain, so.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. 14, consider use of select board contingency for public works renovations.
Still,
Still me.
still here.
We were asked to actually look at the feasibility of doing some renovations over the
Right.
existing public works facility. The, currently, the existing facilities right now basically houses, one toilet and, an
And a sink
exterior sink.
outside.
An exterior sink, which seconds as a slop sink and such for the mechanic. Upstairs has a meeting room, a partial meeting room with microwave ovens and such. What we're proposing to do is place some kitchen appliances there in that location, do an emergency egress point from the second floor at the mezzanine level, which is the second floor. So we would have an exterior exit at that location for safety reasons and life safety reasons. We would then we would expand that meeting room a little bit as well by combining two spaces that are upstairs. And downstairs where the existing toilet facility is, we would actually place a new toilet, sink, as well as a washing machine and dryer.
Yep.
The mechanics have to, at least the mechanics and others, operators do need to wash their clothing from time to time, especially the mechanic. That individual, unfortunately, as it gets into oil, typically they're taking it over to wastewater to do so, but it'd be nice to have that ability right there. So that is the intent, and the pricing that Matt had put together for that, Matt Philbrick, was approximately $36,000 to do that work.
That's a pretty
So-
good,
That's a good
that's a good
price.
thing, yeah.
And as long, and this is here for 40, so
We're
there's a
getting a lot
built-in
more.
contingency just in case, so you don't have to come
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
I would make unless anyone, I make a motion to approve or amend the use of the contingency funds for the highway garage renovation in a total not to exceed $40,000.
Second.
I have a first and second, any more discussion? Here none, all in favor?
Also remember Kai Leffler at this is bringing it up to
Yeah.
us.
I hope she's
Yeah,
watching.
thank
She did spark
Yep.
this discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Not leaving yet.
What's that?
Are you still here?
You're
Again?
Are you still here?
So, discussion of potential agreement with Beaver Pond Road and Prescott Drive property owners for use of a private road in emergency circumstances.
I promise I'll leave after this one. We were approached by the neighborhoods there, because in the recent storms, we've been seeing flooding happening at the Dyke Road as well as the Old Biddeford Road.
New
And-
Bedford Road.
New Biddeford, I
New
know why I keep
Biddeford
calling it
Road.
Old Biddeford Road. I'm sorry. New Biddeford
It's an old road, though.
I don't know why I keep doing that. So what's happening at that time is the only really exit point is through the Prescott Road and Beaver Pond Road area, and to exit that way out to the fire station effectively, to get back out to Route 9. So we were approached and asked whether we could enter into some kind of an agreement for some minor improvements. We would not be taking ownership of the road. We were asked to basically take a look at two culverts, make sure they were jetted out and operating in good form, and we would do that because some of the points we weren't able to find, quite frankly, the exit point. Not that this is the best time of year right now to be looking for those points, but we would do that come, a little slightly warmer weather when we can use the jetters. Also install one new culvert as well as bring in some gravels in that area. We would do that in exchange for permission to utilize that area as an emergency evacuation route. And So we're really just asking for Lori to be able to enter into negotiations with those residences, or those homeowners association or road association. I'm not sure that the form that we're talking about, but the appropriate form of government that they have there to prove us being able to travel over those roads.
And I gave you a hard copy tonight of
Yeah.
the Volunteer Road Association in case you wanted to see that document.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's something that we need to do,
Absolutely. So do I.
yeah.
Do we need to make a motion on this, or is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I would like to move to allow the town to enter into an agreement with the Road Association at Beaver Pond and the Prescott Woods area. We got some actual words, isn't that wonderful? The Goose Rocks Beach Voluntary Road Association to make improvements on the road. Do we want to say to not exceed $10,000, or is that was just an estimate?
We will be doing the work. We expect that's an estimate that I put together.
Well, let's just say to do the work in return for the town's use of that thoroughfare as an official evacuation route.
I have a first,
Second?
I have a first and a second. Is somebody on Zoom? Can you hold on just a
Okay.
second?
Yes,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
some more discussion.
Richard, you can speak.
How you, Prescott, as,
Hi, Richard, we lost the beginning. Could you start again?
sure,
I fear we're having the same
Richard
Zoom
Driver.
difficulties before.
You're breaking
You
up,
deter-
Richard.
sorry?
We can't hear him.
Dave?
I'm sorry, I don't know the source of this. I've been trying to troubleshoot it, and the one thing I tried is not working.
Okay.
Richard, we're unfortunately not able to
Hear?
hear you. Do you want to call my cell phone? If you're there, and if you want to call 207-423-2150. That's 207-423-2150. No one else but Richard Driver, please call that.
Too late for that.
Too late for that.
And if you call in the next 5 minutes, we'll give you.
Yeah, if you come on, I'll put you on speaker. And what else we got? We just wait for him to come in.
For a second.
Oh, we're waiting for the vote, right?
Because I have a first.
So
and
while we
second.
wait, I'll just make a comment
Yeah.
that this is very much needed, because at the last storm, oh, here comes Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Can you hear me?
Hold
Put you
on,
up.
hold on a second.
Turn yours up. Side.
I understand, but that's not what's doing.
You gotta put on speaker, so you gotta go to the phone and not the.
Yeah. I got you on my speaker, Richard.
Put them up to your microphone.
Well, I'm
Put it
afraid I'm gonna
aside.
get
There we
feedback.
go.
Go ahead.
So can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can now.
You're gonna get feedback.
So, the question is, how did you determine Prescott as opposed to Skyline? Or both, Prescott as Skyline?
Did you hear that, Eric?
Yeah, so it was whether you,
Skyline.
how did you choose Prescott
Rather than Skyline?
rather than Skyline?
We were informed that was a frequently used route, and I think our GPS also takes them through it as possibly the shortest route through that location.
And I spoke to public safety, and that was the route that they
Yeah,
chose.
the public safety folks, Richard, recommended that it be Prescott as the route.
Did anyone talk to the fire department?
Yes, that's with whom we spoke.
Well, it doesn't make any sense with a large fire truck coming down Beaver Pond and having to make a right-hand 90-degree curve, and then in a short distance, a 90-degree left turn, and you get down to the bottom of Prescott, and you have another 90-degree right turn, and then you're going to have to stop in order to turn left into Community House Road. And Community House Road is the only access to the rest of the beach. So, if you went Skyline, you eliminate two of those turns. A police car may be able to do it without any problem, but a large fire truck is very different.
Well, tell you what, Richard, what I would do is, we will certainly have the fire folks look at that, and be sure that it would be workable.
Okay, the alternative is to do both, because actually the main traffic, and there's private roads, we don't want to encourage additional traffic, but the main traffic for non-residents of the area is Skyline, because you come up Community House Road and it is straight into Skyline. You have to make a right in order to get to Prescott.
All righty, I appreciate that input. We'll definitely take it under consideration.
Well, you have a motion on the floor at the moment. I would ask that you withdraw the motion until you are able to get some clarification.
The fire chief drove it today.
Or amend the motion to include both Prescott and Skyline.
Yeah. I appreciate the thought. Thank you, Richard, and we'll carry on. Thank you, sir.
We have another raised hand on Zoom. I don't know if we'll have any better luck with them.
Just give them, they have John's number.
Actually, they took their hand down.
Okay.
They're gonna be calling
So
John.
we have a motion.
We,
I do know that the fire chief drove that road today, and he was okay with it, so.
all right, well, given that the fire chief has driven it and it's okay with it, I think the motion stands.
Right, we have a first and a second. Any more discussion?
No, I just would like to make a comment about how necessary this is, because we have to have the beach access at the end of Jeffrey's Way that has to stay open. And during the last storm, we just had the deluge of water running up that hole. It cut the whole corner off and then went all the way up what we call New Biddeford Road. Some people call it
Sorry.
Old One. So this is a
apologies.
very needed.
Okay, all in favor?
Jim Burke has raised his hand again.
Oops.
We can try via Zoom.
We just took a vote.
Well, we took the vote, so it's gonna stand.
All right.
Good.
Is he,
We can talk, I
is
mean,
he
he
still,
can,
does he have his hand raised?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and put him on.
Jim, you can try and speak. You have to unmute yourself.
Who's this?
It's Jim Burke.
Sorry,
Kate? It's Kate.
sorry, it's Kate Burke, and
Kate.
it's Kate Bauer Burke. I don't understand this whole process of trying to get my hand raised, so please ignore it, taking the vote, and I totally agree with the vote.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
We're set.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion of Goose Rocks Beach parking permit fees for 2025.
Okay.
Personally, I'd like to see them stay the same.
I agree.
Boy, it's been I've been in the dissenting seat a lot tonight. I should maybe go home and get that Manhattan. I argued last time to raise them, and I wish to make that argument again. I feel that we have not been sensitive enough to the residents of our town who would like to have use of their beach and find it extremely difficult to get an open spot especially in holidays when they have family up as well as everyone else. To me, $30 a day is a ridiculously low price for someone to pay for 8 hours at Goose Rocks Beach. Personally, I'd like to see that be $50. Likewise, $125 for a week, I think that should be $250. And for $250 for a season, $400. The $10 for a resident, that again, it's a resident's prerogative, and I would leave that at that. My only concern is I don't know what the maximum fee we have for parking tickets. I believe, is it 65? Is that correct? Do we know what that is, Lori?
So it depends on what the ticket is for. For not having a beach pass, it is $65, and after 30 days, it goes to $85.
Do we have any flexibility to raise that?
Yes, you do.
Marvelous. So I would like to put that, if they're parking there without a sticker, at least $75, I'd prefer it $95. We got to get serious about parking. We got to get serious about having a source of revenue. We have very few things in this town where the town is able to get some revenue in our coffers based on our tourists. You know how all the sales tax works and everything. This is one of our greatest assets. It ought to be turned into a source of reasonable revenue. And again, to me, someone's coming for a week, they're spending thousands of dollars. Now, they may not be staying at the beach, granted. So but if on the back roads or somewhere else in Kennebunkport, to have a full week's pass, I don't believe that $250 is out of line. That's, so that's my feeling.
Anybody else?
When's the last time we raised the fees?
Last year. There's a chart there. You can see where.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah, it's
go down, I
okay.
didn't go to page.
Yeah, but that's where it was,
135.
but yeah.
Oh, here it is.
We went from $25 to $30 on the day pass, which, it's but what's $5? You can't get a latte for $5. You've been to Mornings in Paris lately? I mean, it's ridiculous, guys. This is one of
So
the,
I just have to say that we are the highest for a daily pass on the coast in York County.
because we are the best.
And we offer no services besides a porta potty.
Perfect. Keeps people away.
I think what you are likely to have happen is people invest so much that they do not leave, and there are more activities happening in the water than we want. So it is certainly a board decision, and I'm not opposed to offering solutions. I hear a lot of complaints that residents can't get a parking spot, and we have talked about different ways to address that. I just also, sometimes when you march down a path, there are unintended consequences.
Indeed.
And I just have to make you aware that the world's a little bigger.
Thank you. Lori doesn't like the idea.
Mary Beth, you haven't chimed in?
This is my thought. $10 for the residents for the pass, fine. Daily, I could keep it 30, but I think the weekly and the seasonal could go up again. $250 for a seasonal pass to me is a little cheap. And I think $125 could go to $150. I'm not quite there with John, but $150 and maybe $300. Other than that, I'm fine with the resident pass for 10, and I could do the daily at 30. But I think it is a revenue source, and I do think that we have to appreciate that there are people who do complain all the time, and we've been done down there ourselves counting cars that are parked overnight and all that. So maybe it's a way of helping to address some of the parking issue.
So if we're at the highest on the daily, I'm okay staying there, but I do agree with John and Dave that the weekly is low, and also I think the seasonal is low, so I think we have room to bring those up. And I think part of the problem too, John touched on it a little bit, we do have to, I would like us to see us increase significantly the parking violation fee. Because what we heard last year was that people will just park and pay the fee. And I don't think a lot of people can appreciate what that really looks like down at the beach for those people that live down there. So people will just say, okay, I'm going to get a ticket and I'll pay it. So it doesn't seem to be a deterrent.
So let's do the beach parking stickers first.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with you,
Who?
John.
Oh, wow.
Not that.
You want to increase
Wow.
permits?
I know,
Yeah.
isn't that something?
I don't want to increase I darn sure don't want to increase the $10.
I think we're
No,
all there.
we're all in
We're all
agreement.
that
$10
way.
We're in violent
$10
agreement
stays.
on keeping that at $10.
So why don't we take it one at a time? So $10, we're all good.
Yep.
Bingo.
10, everybody good? I
Yeah.
heard 10, anyone going,
Yeah.
okay, 30? Are we good on
50.
30?
50.
I'm good with that.
50.
No.
40.
No.
40.
No. I'm not doing it.
You might just have to take
All right, well,
this
that's
one.
just
I'll
one.
meet
What
it.
about
That's
40?
just,
I'd go with 40.
That'll go. What about 40?
35.
38.50. No, come on. What about 40? What about 40?
come on.
It's $10.
No. I'm okay with the, look, I
You-
don't
what do you-
mind
Mary
going
Beth,
up.
where are you on
I
this?
don't mind going up on the
See?
125 and the 250.
Well, we're not there yet. We're talking about the daily.
I know,
Okay,
I'm
I
telling
got it.
you, no.
So, 40. Come on, show some.
Don't do it.
Pass.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 40 if you say we don't have to buy into Echo Maine.
No, you can't do that.
No, that's not.
That's a bargain.
Hey, I thought we were making deals tonight.
It's worth a shot. It was worth a
So
shot.
we're gonna make a motion.
I have to say that if you travel to other places, to other cities, wherever you go, parking is usually at a premium.
This is an hourly rate in Boston.
$30 is nothing.
This is an hourly rate. That's right. That's basically an
Yeah.
hourly rate.
All right, I'll break the log, 40.
40 it is. So 40 on daily is what we're going to be putting on the, and so what about
Okay.
weekly?
I'd go to 150.
150.
150. And seasonal?
325.
Well, keep in mind that when you increase to 40, you're
Yeah, you got to make sure the
That's right.
numbers work.
at
Yeah.
280,
Yeah.
you're
Well,
at 280, right?
40 times, well, 40.
40
gotta
do
have
it
it
times
200.
5.
Forty
Right,
times
but I'm saying,
seven.
do you
Times
want
seven.
that much of a discount, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, it's 200. If we did 200, that would be 5 days. You get 2 days free.
Whatever you guys want.
No, but that doesn't seem reasonable. You
Yeah,
think that's
I'm
too much?
just bringing it up, but,
Too much of a discount? Want to go 250?
no, I have no magic ball about what's the right discount to offer.
175?
What'd you say? What's your call, John?
What did you
Well,
want for the
again,
weekly?
if we did 5 days, if we go to 40, then for 5 days would be 200, you get 2 days free if you do the weekly. So if we're at 40 for daily, then I think 200 would make sense. If we were at 35 for daily, I don't want to talk against myself, but,
We've already
200.
decided
okay, 40 it
good.
is, so 200 for the weekly. And,
Well,
seasonal,
weekly, you ought to give them a little break.
we did.
Yeah,
we did.
3 days.
They're getting 2 free days. on
Oh,
weekly.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, but, of course, they're never up here 2 free days, you know, it's always,
Could be
always,
raining.
someone's on a week, 6. Well, 200. What about the seasonal?
325.
325.
I mean, if you're here for the
That's a
season,
lot.
you think?
No, it isn't.
I'm not gonna vote for it.
Okay.
I'm only one.
350.
Yeah, 325. 350 says.
All right, cut her off, cut her mic.
320. 350 or 325?
I'll go whichever, 325.
That's it, good.
Okay.
So then I would like to make a motion that we set the Goose Rocks Beach sticker, I'm sorry, Alan, may I make a motion?
Absolutely.
Because Alan's not gonna
I mean, I'm gonna vote for it.
I did move the fee. I'd like to make a motion that we set the Goose Rocks Beach sticker fee for the 2025 season to $40, for 10, keep it at $10 for the taxpayer seasonal, $40, $10 raise for the daily, $200, a $75 raise for the weekly, and $325, a $75 raise again for the seasonal.
I have a first,
I'll second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? All opposed?
This time you called me opposed.
Okey dokey.
Well,
What
don't
about
we
a
have to do the
ticket?
dock square
What
fee
about
too?
tickets?
Oh, tickets, yeah.
Oh, tickets.
So I'm in favor of one thing, the fire lane. I think that's pretty low.
So let me tell you what the permit fees are, the fine fees are right now. So a handicap is $210, and it, after 30 days, goes to $230. The no beach parking pass is $65, and it goes to $85. Then we have an other category, which is $35,
Is that the one you're talking about?
and it goes to $55. So other includes fire lane parking, it includes, I'm in the Dock Square area and I am in a 2-hour parking zone and I go over. It includes, I parked over the parking line, it includes a variety of things. So Chris, Chief Simeone did look at our neighboring communities and what they are charging. Some of them are pretty complicated. Gunkwood is the most complicated. They have a zone for every kind of parking known to mankind. I think that one thing we did talk about was this fire lane parking, and that probably $35 for other doesn't really do that. We did talk about the fact that we should probably get some new signage for fire lanes that explains what the violation is. But he was so I'm not gonna ask you to vote on this tonight, because I think we ought to tell the public, and we have given the public no notice of this.
Okay.
But he was comfortable with if we went to $100 for the fire lane, and maybe going to $50 for other from $35. He felt like the beach fine of $65, seemed to be in alignment. The handicap fine, we did find out, the state increased it to $265. So we thought we should meet the state fee.
Wow.
So we're not gonna take a vote on it.
I think we ought to publish to the,
Yeah,
okay, because it's an increase in fines.
But can we recommend to increase the no sticker? I'd like to.
You
put
can-
that
you
to
can do
at least
whatever
to $80, double it, make it clear to people that they need to have a sticker.
Well, it's 65 now.
So,
Just make it to 80.
I thought you said double it.
He's saying double the fee from
Double
what
the
the
fee.
permit costs.
Oh,
Double
yeah.
the 40, so that people they're taking a risk when they do it, as opposed to a $15 to $25.
Yeah. So I think I just would like to, I'd like to look at that. I appreciate putting some signs up. I think one thing that I'd like to see different happen this year, because it was very frustrating last year, and I don't think people really can appreciate it unless you live down there. On the really big, crazy weekends or days, people will just park anywhere. And you can say, okay, well, we're gonna ticket them, but then when they park on both sides of the road, when they park before and after a little bridge, and they're parking in a fire lane, you don't have line of sight, it's hard to get off a road, and if one of our houses started on fire down there, you can say, well, they'll just push them out of the way. They can't push them out of the way because they push them through the front door or the front of a house. So it is just too narrow, And somehow we gotta get our hands out of that. I know we talked last time, and I was convinced that we can't tow a car, because of the liability when Chief was talking us through that. But at some point, we've gotta get a handle on getting that. It has gotten crazy. It's getting worse every year. And then as soon as we start raising some of the ticket prices for the beach, which I voted for, it's gonna even cause people to get more creative on where they're gonna park. And so I've seen many there's a lot of kids that walk from particularly my neighborhood down to the beach. It's a walk, we walk to the beach.
You
And we have
also
little kids on
don't you
bikes.
have a summer police officer?
Oh, it's CSOs.
So the problem with that is, I think, so for example.
Point being, if you have a summer person there and people start parking where you're saying, there ought to be tickets daily.
So the problem with that is, it doesn't take away the safety issue. So for example, one day, many days, but I'll pick on this one day, they were parked on Kings Highway, right past New Biddeford Road. They were parked in the fire lane, so it was right up to the edge. And then there was cars back on that street, all the way back to Little Bridge. And then across the street, in front of a house, there were 3 cars jammed in. You could not get line of sight to the bridge, to people coming over Little Bridge. You could barely get a car through. Then you get over Little Bridge, and you got people parked up in the marsh beyond where they should be, with their cars out in the middle of the road. It's just, I cannot explain the insanity that goes on there with parking. And so somehow this is only gonna get worse, because we're getting more and more popular. So I don't know how to get our handle.
Have we ever towed any cars?
And 200 for
That
the
caused-
So we can tow if it is a public safety hazard, if there is an obstruction.
But who's gonna tow? I mean, they're the towing company?
They would call a towing
This is
company.
10 to 15 cars.
Yeah.
Well, it's.
So if you want to have this discussion, we should have the chief here.
Yes,
I
indeed.
agree.
Okay,
Indeed.
So moving right along,
Yeah, but would you suggest that we would raise the price, though, to the chief on the daily parking? We just see what his thing would be without a sticker? And there needs to be signage to tell somebody it's a $100 ticket. I mean, you can park here, but there's gotta be consequences where you're gonna park.
so item 17, approve Dock Square parking lot fees for 2025 season.
what is it now?
$5 an hour.
I think that's perfect.
I think that's fine.
I wouldn't want to use it.
I have no problem. I'll make a motion to actually keep the Dock Square parking fees at $5 per hour.
And I'll second it.
I have a first and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Here we go. Wow. Okay.
See, we
18.
can get along.
Authorize quitclaim deed for map lot 013-006-033A.
So this was a property we foreclosed upon in January. All interest, taxes, cost, fees have been paid in full.
Okay.
That's wonderful. So can I make a motion then?
You can make a motion.
I make a motion that we authorize the quitclaim deed for map lot 013-006-033A for full payment of back taxes.
Second.
I have a first and second, all in favor? Okay, 19, accept a donation of $250 from Linda and Robert Wall to the nurses account. And thank
So
you very
moved.
much.
Yep.
I have a first,
So moved.
Second.
first, second, all in favor?
Yep, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Gratitude.
Okay. Other business, David.
2 things. I would like to just let the board know and the people of town, I want to thank Nina Perlmutter, who has served on the planning board for the last 6 years, and she announced at our last meeting that she will be stepping down. This Wednesday coming up will be her last meeting, but I want to just thank her on behalf of the board for all her hard work and dedication that she's done for that, for the town.
Yeah,
And
Thank you, Nina.
she's done
Yeah.
a lot for us, a lot for the
Yep.
town.
And the other people I want to thank is the folks in the highway department and Public Works. Great job the last couple of weeks plowing those roads.
Yeah,
You got another one coming up this
Another one
weekend.
coming up this week.
So
Yeah.
roads are good and clean and
they're
clear.
good and clean.
They
Really
are.
great.
absolutely.
But thank you, because I know it's tough, so,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mary, is that all, Dave?
That's all I got.
Mary Beth?
I just ditto what Dave said. Thank you to Nina and thank you to the highway team. It has been great.
John?
Just a quick CRC update. We came several months ago, the committee wanted to work with UNE to work on developing a energy navigator. We approved that work. In the interim, we've learned that SM, our Southern Maine Planning Development Commission, I gotta say it, I can't say the act, doesn't matter, it's not catchy, you know.
It's bedtime.
Yes, are working on a similar, not identical, but similar enough that it's wise for us to wait and see what they put in place. So in the interim, and Mary Beth had the great thought, because we met just a couple days ago with you, because the board had agreed to have us look at the possibility of putting a solar farm on the capped landfill. We pitched that to the UNE kids, and they've accepted that challenge. So they'll be working with the CRC to just look at, it basically is looking at the feasibility. What is the potential, what are the costs, and, but
What are we gonna get out of it?
and what are we gonna get out of it? It's a total ROI.
Yeah.
So,
Look at you,
am I good?
saying ROI like that.
I tell you, these damn liberals, they can sometimes do it. So, it's good stuff. Yeah,
Is that it, John?
that's it.
And I have nothing other than to say thank you again to Nina. I think we had a good session tonight.
Yeah. I'm ready for bed. I have nothing.
So I just wanted to update the board. You'll remember, we talked about the opportunity to perhaps seek some FEMA funding through hazard mitigation on Ocean Avenue by Wanby Beach. And so you appropriated funds from the resiliency project money to have Woodard and Curran do that final design and benefit cost analysis so that we could submit an application. And we put Head of the Harbor on hold while we did this. So we have, I think, 95% of what they need. It was a very lengthy set of documents and bureaucratic paperwork. And so Eric and I worked with the engineers over the last week to finalize it. I sent it in to our state Maine Emergency Management Agency office. Remember, our goal was to get in first come, first serve. And so we did send all of that in to them. We haven't heard back from the person in charge. They've been swamped with other things, but I'm continuing to check in with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that all?
I could come up with other stuff, but
No, we're good.
We've got plenty of time. We still got another couple hours. We're good. So, adjourn. Do I have a
No,
motion?
the warrant,
Sheila-
don't you have to do the warrant?
Sheila-
The warrant.
What? Oh, the
The
warrant.
warrant.
Right.
I move that we move the warrant.
There we go.
Second,
All in favor?
Move to adjourn.
second.
All in favor? There we go.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.